Second and 10. All day to throw it. Well, not quite all day. Maybe one play. Doyle doing it on both ends. On both sides of the football. This will be from...
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Shorter motions to the bottom of your screen. Some motion down there. Tennessee almost came into the neutral zone. And Emory Jones to a wide open Malik Davis. Touchdown, Gators.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Intercepted by Michigan State. Cal Holiday streaking across, and he is in for the pick six.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Gonna hand it off. Got the first down. And Moore still going. Smith still on his feet. Got a little help from his friends. Touchdown Bears.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Tuesday afternoon, winding down the last week in October. A couple of notes. Sonny Dykes has made a comment about the coaching search where his father was the head coach, of course, at Texas Tech. Mike Tomlin was asked about even Southern Cal today and emphatically shot that down, and some other news as well involving college football. That's what we're here for. And also a little bit of what's happening tonight with the World Series. Craig will have his off the radar today at 4:45 on many things. All right, let me ask you guys a question. The Big 12 is going to try to find a way as much as they possibly can to make money. There was when the Texas and Oklahoma story broke, and that's now been forever ago in late July, that, my God, they even admitted, Bob Bowlesby admitted what percentage of what they're getting with the television revenue, with the television contract, with the grant of rights, and how much of a percentage they will lose with the value of Texas and Oklahoma. No one's ever argued that. But they've now had this comeback. And it gets to a point, how much are they going to get? We don't know. Pac-12 will be next most likely to announce what they have, and the Big 12 can then look at that and go from there. So how do you make more money? One is the Big 12 is still one of the rarities with a Tier 3, and that's not a lot of money. I think each team gets about $4 million from that. But how do you make more money? How about this idea? What are the pros and cons, in your opinion, if the Big 12, once they're formed, and it is a 12 to 16 team league, what about having 10 conference games? You eliminate a non-conference game. You also eliminate giving up part of the gate or whatever else with a non-conference game, or giving somebody $500,000 to come get beaten, and sometimes they beat you. What's the pros and cons if the Big 12 is to go to a 10-game conference schedule?
I think the first big pro would be your television contract would have more value to it on Tier 1 and Tier 2, and even Tier 3 for maybe your lesser ones, that Kansas versus USF game that could happen down the line that people may not care about, but even still. And, outside of the 16 potential teams that we've talked about, or even of the 12, there are only 3 teams with a major out-of-conference rival, and one of them is in conference now, which would be Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So if they want to keep Bedlam going, that would be one of Oklahoma State's games. It would, BYU and Utah, and then Iowa and Iowa State, which they would obviously try to keep going. But that's one of their 12, which means they only have to schedule one of the game every year, which makes it easier on those teams. Harder would be, it's for 3 teams. It's tough to get that out of conference game, but I think that's negligible for the money you could make.
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, it would be of much more interest to the networks. I mean, I think you'd much rather have a Baylor-Iowa State extra game than a Baylor versus SFA type of game. So you're still going to have Baylor SFA, I'm sure, or games like that. But if you could replace a Texas Southern with a BYU, then I think that's a big deal. I think that would obviously be of interest to the TV networks. I think it would, in another positive way, be unique to the Big 12. I mean, nobody's playing 10 conference games, right? So that would be something entirely unique to them. As far as the cons, what immediately jumps into mind is just you would beat up each other so much. I mean, 10 conference games. I mean, who's going 10-0? That'd be difficult. How does that then affect your national championship hopes? Because, this new conference is all about stabilizing, but also about eventually winning and being competitive. And if you got 10 conference games, I mean, that's really asking a lot for schools to try and run that gamut. I mean, 9's been proven to be pretty difficult other than for Oklahoma. That immediately pops into mind as a potential con. And I do think that, I guess with having so many teams, you wouldn't be seeing the same teams over and over and over again. But I do think there is some uniqueness to that non-conference schedule and being able to have the ability to have those outside Big 12 versus ACC or Big 12 versus SEC. So I think if you'd only go down to 2 non-cons, there should probably still be some type of a mandate of having to play a Power 5 level opponent. But
I think if you're going to be in the college football playoff, those days of playing, that's a given. Yeah.
But then you're making your entire schedule harder because usually everybody has 2 mulligans. Well, now you'd have just one. Or one gimme game, so to speak, rather than having 2. So, I mean, I see pros and cons to both sides just thinking about it in the last, 2.5 minutes or so, but it's definitely intriguing just for the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it if there was no 12-team playoff. If there's a 12-team playoff, then, if they bail on the 12-team playoff, which I don't think any of us think they're going to do, but if there's no 12-team playoff, then I'm not going to play 10 conference games and assure myself
when some are playing 8. But if, in fact, the college football playoff does explode to 12, then to me, all right, so let's look at this. If you play 10 conference games, you get to keep all the money.
Yeah.
Every game that's on television means either whatever network deal you're going to end up with, whether it's Tier 1 or Tier 2, and most of them would like conference games. They're better. Now, you have some really salty non-conference games that are good too. But your games, that's one more weekend of all your games that will be on Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. From a network perspective, they want that, and then you also then get to keep all the money. There's no split of 50% or paying somebody an extra $500,000 or whatever. Then, if you're Iowa State, you still have an opportunity to play Iowa. You don't lose. You have 2 games left, 2 non-conference games left. So you get to still keep if you have a natural rivalry. And most of the teams now don't. Brigham Young would have Utah, and then a few others would have theirs along the way. And whatever Baylor decides to do
let's see.
with that, whatever TCU decides to do, because SMU, if that in fact does occur, they're already in the conference. So Houston's already in the conference. So you have some, like Texas Tech has been playing Houston. Now, the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State game, we don't know what the future is of that. It's hard for me to imagine that game would not continue, but we lost the A&M and Texas game. We know that, when egos and hurt feelings and all that other stuff got involved.
Yeah, looking at it, I mean, Baylor doesn't have a non-con rival.
Not one that you just every year you're going to play. Yeah.
They don't have anybody. Oklahoma State's obviously got Bedlam, so they would have that. Iowa State's got Iowa. Tech doesn't really have one, and I guess the closest would be Houston. I mean, just based on, I guess, recent history, they seem to have matched up a lot, but again, they would be conference mates, so there's not one there. K-State, there's not one there, unless – no, I mean, there's really not. TCU, no. West Virginia – I mean, now you're putting Cincinnati. They'd have Pitt. Pitt could potentially be like their big non-con game if you wanted to just focus in on
West Virginia. Pitt, yeah.
That's what I mean. It's West Virginia.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then Kansas, no, not really. So, I mean, it's about half and half there, but it's an intriguing idea, and the money part would obviously be a positive as well. If that's something the networks indicate that they would be more intrigued by, then yes, certainly that's another big positive you would put in that side. I think there's probably more positives than negatives, but it is interesting. 10 conference games. It just sounds daunting, right? It just sounds kind of daunting in the grand scheme of things. But it's only one extra game technically. So
the games would stand out unless again you have some of those long-time great rivalries. And right now, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State is a conference rivalry, which is about to change.
And it would probably make for a more interesting race, although, you could run the risk of having a team win the conference by 4 games, potentially if they were really good. But at the same time, you look at the current race right now and think about if you were to add one more conference game to the remaining 5 that are out there, that's another opportunity for Texas to stay in the mix. Or if Baylor were to lose this weekend, they wouldn't be completely ruled out. They'd still have 5 more games to go. So, that could be helpful.
All right, so what if you're Kansas State, and Iowa State? All right, they do recruit Texas. Not a lot, but some of them more than others, right? Even though Kansas, even when they've recruited Texas, we know the story, it hasn't always worked out. So if you do this, and you're those teams, Kansas State, and Iowa State, you're like, wait a minute. You have all these new teams coming in from Texas with possibly, we know Houston's coming in, and maybe the SMU as well. We want to kind of have a little bit of that chunk of Texas. We still need to be seen down there. And if they're in the other division, because there would be 2 divisions, they need to be able to be seen in Texas, right? So if you have an extra conference game, then you also then have, like what the SEC has done, a constant crossover game, whoever that might be. Now, I think you need to rotate that. But let's say Kansas State, and Iowa State will rotate among the schools in Texas to keep their eyeballs on their programs in a state that's so fertile with talent.
Yeah, and I think...
And I know that gets complicated, just a thought.
But I do think that 10 conference games, if you get to a 12 or even 16 game, especially if you get to 16-team league... the one thing that, the SEC can, brag about having 14 teams, but, when does Florida play A&M? They've played them twice, in the 10 years. So, when has A&M played Tennessee twice? It's not.
Like LSU has Florida as their crossover game, I think it is.
Yeah.
And Alabama's had what? Is it Tennessee or whoever?
Yeah, I think.
And sometimes it can,
A&M has South Carolina.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not, it's not ever going to be a rivalry, A&M and South Carolina. So, I say it's not ever, but it's...
No, they've tried it, and it just doesn't work.
A lot of things would have to happen over 50 years for it to be a rivalry. So, it would allow you to... And look, the SEC should do this, too, when they go to 16 teams, is move the schedule around. There's no reason to have it...
rotated.
Oklahoma and Tennessee play each other the first 2 years, and then 16 years later, they see each other again.
And there's got to be, with algorithms... And we'll let Hayden Bumpus handle that. He can handle the algorithms for us. But here's a couple of comments from the text line. Also, I put it up on the website, SicEm365.com premium section, and a bunch of you are hammering away. We appreciate it on the chat room as well. The number to call, 254-339-1122. Our first guest will be about Michigan State. Graham Couch will join us at 3:45. We'll check in on Florida. They have Georgia this week with Edgar Thompson. They also have lost a couple of very highly ranked recruits in the last week, and Dan Mullen's kind of simmering there. We'll also, again, today, Marcus Sedbury from Baylor Athletics in the upcoming Hall of Fame weekend with the B Association for Baylor when they host Texas on Saturday, and much more to get to as well. So, think about that conference if you do that in basketball. This is going to be a good basketball conference. If you go to divisions, you do home and away, that's 14 games, and then you have 8. You have 22 games. I remember the Big East had that sledgehammer. That would be a wear and tear on you, so that's interesting to bring up as well. You also, with the college football playoff extending, when that happens, because it will, and we don't know when, you don't really have this chance now to play games that might hurt you when it comes to strength of schedule, right? You can be 9-3 and have a chance. Now, I'm not saying unless you have to lose to the right people and also beat some pretty good people as well. So here's the text line from Shooter. I don't see the value in playing 10 conference games. It reduces the number of conference teams who will be bowl eligible. Bowl games equal money. I prefer 8 plus 4, 8 conference games, 4 non-conference games, so we get more bowl games. It worries me that it works for the SEC pretty well. I don't want to go to more non-conference games. I don't think that's the idea. And I don't know about what the cross would be between the number of bowl games you might not get, because if you have 16 teams, you're going to have a bunch of bowl games you're tied into.
Well, 6 wins is the bottom level of a bowl game.
It doesn't matter if you have a 6-6 record or not. If there's 8 of them that are 6-6, they're going to a bowl game.
You could get 11 of them in at 6 wins.
But Shooter does bring up, so I didn't think about the bowl games. And Matt, start with 9 games, get the new members in, get settled, then go to 10 if that helps everyone. Playoff won't expand anyway, at least until 2025. And Steven's trying to call in at 254-339-1122. We'll try to get to that as well. I'm going to go to the chat room here in just a second. Craig, anything else on what come up? This is kind of just something to throw out there and see what you think about the 10 conference games. No. Scotty B, stick with the 9 conference games. Mike S, look at the ACC this year. Do you think any of them would want more conference games if your conference is down, fewer non-conference games is a problem? From Cameron, 9 conference games, 3 non-conference, 2 of which have to be an SEC opponent. This benefits everyone. Joey, they're an average Big 12 team with a bottom-heavy schedule. I'm not sure. Somebody else maybe responded to somebody else. Let's see here. From Cameron, Baylor can play A&M. Oklahoma State keeps playing Oklahoma. Kansas can go back to playing Missouri. Some of those aren't going to happen. A&M hasn't played Baylor since they left the conference in 2011, right?
But it's saying that they could.
Yeah,
they could be they'd be the best choice. I mean, look around. Everybody else is going to be in the Big 12 or the SEC. So, sure as hell ain't going to be UTEP or,
no.
SMU will probably be in the conference. So, again, who else is out there, even in the state, that you could potentially be a rival with? It would only be A&M, but, maybe Tech has that in mind, or maybe somebody else has that in mind already.
Nate, how about my Jayhawks this weekend giving Oklahoma a run for it? And they did. From nighttime. Go ahead.
Yeah, they did. Lance Leipold is doing a great job, and that was a really hard-fought victory. I'm hoping that that level of buy-in and that competitiveness that we saw carries over. The fear is that they kind of gave it all they got, you know what I mean? And it's are spent following that game and heartbroken as well because of the way that it ended. But I mean, I guess when you're piling up losses, one more is not that big of a difference. So I just hope for the Jayhawks' sake that they continue to keep their heads down and keep pounding away, because I do think there's some promise there. It's just, again, going to be something that takes a while, but they've got the right guy, finally. They've got the right guy, in my opinion.
Nighttime. How about 10 conference games also means less cupcakes? That would be true, unless some of those are in. If they're in your conference, you can't do much about that.
That's why I think you would have to have that Power 5 mandatory rule for one of those two if you were to do that. And again, that makes for a really difficult schedule. You'd have one game that you feel like, okay, that's a win, and outside of that, you'd obviously have at least a Power 5 team, so that's more competitive than playing a directional school. And then you'd have your 10 conference games, and good Lord, I mean, depending on how that shakes out for you, that could be a murderer's row.
Yeah, it could be.
The way it shapes up.
Biscuits and gravy. It would work if there was the old BCS formula where weighted average of schedule counted. Current when SEC and others play so many non-conference games, or a week in conference schedule based on the schedule. Don, I am not a fan. I like 9, 1 non-conference, a good team, and 2 mid or lower level teams. Top teams in different conferences need to play the other teams from other conferences. As far as that's kind of what the Big Ten, the ACC, and Pac-12 are trying to do.
I would also say, though, let's when you say that, let's think in terms of the 12-team playoff 10 years from now, or 10 years from the playoff, because what we think of as a good season will morph once there's 12 teams in the playoff, and the leagues are different and all that. So the perceptions will change at least slightly, and so what's a good season at 10-2 now would be that's a good season, but you're just outside of it. Could be a fantastic season normally, because the thing about the NFL, if you're 11-5, or 11-6 this year with 17 games, it's a pretty damn good season. And you could get in the playoffs and go around with
11-5 in the old days not make it a playoff unless you're just
So now if you're in a 12-team playoff and you're 10-2, I mean, you might be winning your league, and that might be most of the leagues, maybe other than one.
Yeah.
So we don't know that. So when you look at it, you have to look at it from the frame of the 12-team playoff, because I don't think they'd be doing a 10-team conference schedule if there was no 12-team playoff. If there's no 12-team playoff and it's still 4, then heck, play 4 conference games. I don't know. I mean, make sure you get in.
The cupcakes guarantee middling teams can get bowl eligible to 6 games. That is true.
It's true. There's a couple comments now in the bowl games, and that is something to consider in this, and it may be a determining factor for not going that direction because, there are quite a few schools that that need to be bowl eligible. It's a big deal, not only for the money, but the experience, the recruiting that comes from that, the extra time of practicing. It's a big deal to make a bowl game. So if you were potentially hurting the chances of more teams from the conference making it, that's something you have to take a look at and go, you know what? It sounds fun, but it's probably not best for everybody. And what this conference needs to do more than anything else is do what's best for everybody. Not what's best for a couple of schools like they've done for the last 20 years, but what's best for everybody. So if a 10-game conference schedule would be beneficial for this new 14 or 16-team league, then roll with it. But if it wouldn't and it's going to hurt and, 2 less teams on average make, or don't make a bowl game as a result, then don't go that direction. Whatever's best for the conference and everybody involved, that's what I want to see them do.
From Don Berta, boring to play the same teams every year, then play 2 nobodies. Well, the 2 don't have to be nobodies. They could be. It just depends on how much you want to bite off and chew.
It's like what I'm saying. You'd have to have the Power or A5 mandatory game be one of those 2 games. You'd have to make sure that was the case because otherwise that would be boring. Playing only conference games, then playing Texas Southern and Texas Northern. That's not going to fill up the stadium. That's not going to be real exciting for anybody. So, I think if you did that, if being the key word, then, you'd have to make one of those 2 be a game that matters.
From the 540.
Which again makes that schedule that much more. That's 11 of your 12 games where you're like, that's a contest most likely.
Owen from West Virginia says, as a West Virginia fan, and they are right there on the very edge of the East, I want more non-conference games than conference games. So 3 or 4 non-conference games is perfect. And I think with West Virginia or some of the teams on what you call the perimeter or the outskirts compared to the core of the conference, then, again, I don't know. But that's from Owen in Virginia. From Mike, I think it's humorous that all those wanting to see highly competitive out-of-conference games don't have to play the games and will be first to criticize when they lose. Mike George, who's all focused in on the Astros tonight in that World Series. So I got a lot of, I was curious about what we would get. And there's some things that were brought up that I didn't think about. And there's some things maybe we've brought up to you that perhaps, now listen, this is just curious because you're going to have all these teams. You're going to have crossover games. You're going to have 2 divisions. I love the 10 teams where everybody played everybody. That way you never got a break on a schedule. Like sometimes in the Big Ten, you could have your own division, and let's say you're in the West, whether it's Iowa or Wisconsin or whoever, and then next thing you know, your crossover games that year could be Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. It can happen based on how the schedule is put together. So it's a lot of great comments. Jacob, let's see. Oh, Jake, someone said, well, that allows TCU to get away from playing SMU. Not if SMU is a part of that Chapter 2. They'll be in the same conference, and most likely, since they're connected with DFW, they'll be in the same division. From Jacob, he asked a question about when do you think, if the Big 12 goes to Chapter 2, when do you think they would like to be able to get into that? Well, they're doing a lot of that stuff right now behind the scenes. I think they would like to because of any kind of schedule of exiting of a conference if you're a part of one outside of the Big 12. I think they'd like to kind of have that bow tied by sometime at the end of November, but that could be shoved down based on who's available and also what's happening with the Pac-12 and their television network. And Jacob said that would be big time. Sometimes I hear they want to get it going sooner than later, but then I hear people say that they won't even sign the expansion in Chapter 2 until they see the new 4 teams. That could happen to wait, but they're not going to get the new 4 teams until the summer of 2023. And remember, Cincinnati, Houston, and also UCF have to do all their stuff to get out of their own conference they're in right now. All right, anything else? Paul, is the line open?
Yeah, it is. Steven says we're having a problem with it. I'm trying to figure that out. Right. It might just be his phone.
Yeah, 254-339-1122, again, is the number to call. From Chris, West Virginia has to travel to Utah, down to Texas, which wears on kids with the added travel time. All that fatigue adds up during a long season. And in football, you're talking about some wear and tear, so imagine the other sports as well that play during the middle of the week and sometimes play twice and could be. Remember West Virginia last year? Now the COVID schedule changed things up. Didn't they have like 3 or 4 games in a row in Texas? and they like spend the time in Texas? I believe so. I believe that they.
Yeah, that West Virginia to BYU trip though, that's going to be a beast. I mean, that is for basketball and those midweek sports. That's going to be tough. And so yeah, I mean that's definitely a fair point. Part of the deal of being in this conference though is there is at least some what of a boost coming as far as teams located a bit closer. Not that any of them are like ideal, obviously, an hour down the road, but there's at least, some East Coast flavor coming their direction. So that should be helpful. And, hopefully the way the divisions shake out, they accommodate West Virginia as best as possible to ensure that, there's not one or two teams that are really carrying the bulk of the travel the majority of the time, because West Virginia's been carrying that pail for years now.
All right, so Joseph Hoyt, Dallas Morning News, spoke to Sonny Dykes or asked him a question about some of the stuff swirling about Texas Tech. And Armstrong, if you wouldn't mind putting up the quote from Sonny Dykes from earlier today. So Joseph asked Sonny Dykes, the former, because Dad was a coach at Texas Tech, we know that. And his response, or specifically he's been contacted by them, or if he's shown any interest in the Tech job. Here's Sonny Dykes. Look, we're focused on getting ready for Houston. I'm not ever going to talk about other jobs. I just don't think it's fair to anybody. Look, our guys are excited to play. We're focused to play. We know how big of a game this is to our program or for our program, and no one's worried about anything other than playing well on Saturday night. Now, one of these days, we might get a coach when they're asked that question, and that's Joseph's job to ask that question. Like yesterday, to bring up with Dave Aranda, who I thought handled it well, and 50% said that's great, and 50% said, well, that sounds like something else. We have to ask those questions, and Sonny Dykes knows that, as does anyone else who's involved. And what's he going to say? You know what? I hope Texas Tech calls me back. We talked for 4 hours on the phone last night, and I can't wait to get to Lubbock. He's not going to say that, but you have to ask the question. And sometimes you just have to kind of whether or not you believe the coach or not. And a lot of times that's tough because their agents could be the ones talking, not them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange because you have to ask the question, but you also know for a fact you're not going to get any answer unless you're asking Mike Tomlin. So, I mean, what else is he going to say? Like you said, he's said all he can really say. He's not going to admit to anything, especially in the midst of they're unbeaten right now. Yeah. I mean, he's not going to be talking about any other jobs. Even if they were over, he wouldn't be talking about any other jobs. So, yeah, I mean, I understand why the questions are being asked. I also understand why they're not going to be answered. And so it really changes nothing at all. He's going to remain in the rumor mill until Texas Tech hires a head coach, whether that's him or it's Jeff Traylor or it's someone else that we're not even thinking of. But, Sonny Dykes is certainly a great candidate, and wouldn't surprise me at all to see Tech pursue him along with Traylor and whoever else. But, I mean, what are you going to say?
Yeah, well, I think it'll be a really interesting day when a coach in Game 8, when a job is open, be like, you know what? I would want to go to LSU. That's a damn good job.
And the thing is,
it's not going to happen.
Their two top candidates are both unbeaten right now. They're both in the midst of like historical runs. Especially Traylor at UTSA. So, I mean, I think the probably one of the top things on their minds, whether they would ever admit it or not, and they certainly wouldn't admit it publicly, is probably whatever's going on behind the scenes with their agent who's handling Sonny Dykes hasn't talked to anybody because his agent's been the one talking to anybody. That's how it works. But at the same time, I'm sure, they're hoping that they can push that off for as long as possible and just keep the good times rolling in San Antonio and Dallas, because this is the kind of thing that can distract you and, maybe cause you to slip up one weekend. So we'll see how they handle it.
And don't ever put it past an agent, and they're doing their job representing whoever their client might be, to float something out in the media.
Sure.
That's, for example, Chad Morris turned down the job at Baylor when he was never offered the job at Baylor. Chad Morris never said that. But he hadn't been offered the job, and guess what? He got a bump at SMU, and now, of course, he's the head coach at Allen High School.
Was Justin Fuente ever offered?
I don't know that. I don't know the true story about that.
Yeah, I don't know the true story either. But, he's now on the hot seat in Blacksburg in a big way. But, I mean, I remember Justin Fuente commenting before was that the rule? Or that was a Randa hire, I guess, right? It would have been the Randa hire? I think yeah. So, I remember when Justin Fuente publicly commented, and I didn't even know that he was really in the mix, but it was like, oh, okay, well, he apparently was. And he shut that down publicly. But, it's very rare to kind of hear that.
I'd just like everybody to know that I am not interested in taking a SiriusXM job right now. Okay. I don't care how much money they throw at me. I'm very loyal.
Oh, there's Cole calling you to raise your pay, yeah.
Craig brought up Mike Tomlin today. He was asked about the mix, the coaching jobs at LSU, and he said, hey, guys, I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sports. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That will be the last time I address it, not only today but moving forward. Never say never, but never, okay? Anybody else got questions about college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check.
All right.
Yeah, and then he got up and he walked off. And
anyone asking Sean Payton or Andy Reid? Yeah,
he was pissed. He was pissed about the question, legitimately, and I think that was the last thing that he did, because he got up right afterwards and walked away, and he seemed to be, I don't know, like upset, but he was annoyed by the question itself, okay. And he addressed it pretty directly. That's as direct as you will ever get.
Isn't it also insinuating he may not be the coach of the Steelers sometime soon?
Yes, it is. Okay, here's why, and that's why it's a disrespectful question. Just because Nick Saban left the Dolphins to go to Alabama. Mm-hmm. Now, the Dolphins at the time were transitioning in ownership. He wanted Drew Brees. They didn't give him Drew Brees. Alabama opened, and he went and took it. His wife didn't like living down there. Let's not take a one-off situation and make it seem like that's what people do. Because it's now, Pete Carroll was not a successful NFL coach when he went to USC. He was after he went to USC. So it doesn't really happen all that often where pro coaches want to go down to college. Mike Tomlin has been the coach of the Steelers for over a decade. He's been to the Super Bowl, which means that if he was ever not the coach of the Steelers, he would not have to go get a college job. He could go get a job with, and I'll just say it, because most of them are a lesser franchise than the Steelers. Here's the other thing. The Steelers have never once fired a coach. Ever in their history. Chuck Noll coached until he retired. Bill Cowher coached until he retired. Mike Tomlin will probably coach until he retires, because that's what the Steelers do. And why would you want to leave a place that doesn't want to fire you to go to USC, a place that will immediately want to fire you?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, when his name was even brought, which I don't even know if where and when it was brought up and all of that. I mean, I know when certain jobs open up like a USC that there are just these names that get thrown out there, but I never would in any way, shape, or form thought Mike Tomlin would leave the Pittsburgh Steelers to go to USC and start recruiting. That just never made any sense to me whatsoever. And shoot, in fact, I think the trend is more college guys jumping to the NFL. I watched Lincoln Riley, and I'm like, man, how stressed out does he look? How much would he probably love to not have to bother with NIL and recruiting and all these other things? You know what I mean? Why would he again, it would be one thing maybe if he was some big USC alum and former star player and the Steelers weren't very good, but none of that's true. So, yeah, I don't know where the line of thinking was that he would be interested in that job. I don't get that.
All right, when we come back, by the way, TCU's J.D. Spielman has announced his retirement. He transferred in from Nebraska. He was dynamic there for a couple of years. Played at TCU. He is retired, according to Gary Patterson. Also, Charleston Rambo, the former Cedar Hill High School wide receiver, was at Oklahoma, now at Miami, was named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award National Player of the Week. 31-30 upset of 19th or 18th ranked North Carolina State, had 2 touchdowns, including what proved to be the game-winning points in that game. When we come back, more from you, 254-339-1122. Also the text, the chats, and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Since 1997, Pickup Outfitters has been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at their location at 220 Lake Air Drive. And, of course, they hope that continues for a long, long time. Jay Arrett has done a spectacular job in helping that business become even bigger, better, faster, stronger, even though they're in the same place. One of the first things he told me he wanted to do is go inside where their techs and specialists are, the bays of where they fix things and add things and take things off and put things on and make that elite. And it is. By the way, Waco's Pickup Outfitter, because they sell high-quality truck accessories at a fair price and professionally install them to factory specifications, all with outstanding customer service. Everything purchased at Pickup Outfitters and then installed at Pickup Outfitters comes with a lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance. So if you want pickup beds, like bed covers, spray-in, lay-in liners, if you want bumpers and grill guards and more, Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com.
The beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock at Allen Samuels. This prestigious Jeep heritage is obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, we're offering an extra $500 cash for you. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now. Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf, they've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
Man, I tell you what, it's been interesting. Jack McKenzie mentioned that we put up a poll in the chat room about what your thoughts are if the Big 12 at some point after they are together and then possibly with the expansion on top of that, would you be for or against, and the reasons why. People have had great feedback on 10 conference games. Jack said initially, after 60-plus votes, that 75% said they love the idea of 10 games. Now there's double that votes, and Jack said it's like 51-49. So I love it. Love the feedback we're getting. And also the text line continues as well. Let's see here. That's not about that. That's about the Texas Tech job. Now, this is from Chris on Mike Tomlin. Keep in mind, Tomlin has never had a losing season, ever. If the Steelers let him go, there are franchises throughout the NFL like Detroit that would kill to get him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
God. Yeah, I mean, like he has no, like, it's just preposterous, the whole idea of it. The whole idea that he would leave the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers, where he's won, to go to USC, where there is no guarantee of winning. I mean, you know, how many times have we watched some big-name guy roll into a big-name school and completely flounder? We've seen it a billion times. So, I mean, it's just the whole idea is preposterous. I know apparently it came from Carson Palmer, was the one that initially brought it up. So, not sure where he was coming from with that. I didn't hear it, but I guess that's where it started apparently. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of it's preposterous. And you know, he turned around and he said, like, would y'all ask Sean Payton and he mentioned somebody else, another white
Andy
coach.
Reid, yeah,
Andy Reid, that. And you know, there was like a racial aspect that it, you know, took on, and I didn't really understand that at all. I just think the idea in general is stupid. Because, I mean, you wouldn't – no NFL coach at a winning franchise, especially a franchise with as much tradition as the Steelers, I don't care – black, white, or purple, I would not expect that head coach to leave for a college job.
Well, and Mike Tomlin probably doesn't remember this, but there was a time when Tennessee was looking for a head coach, and John Gruden was the coach of the Buccaneers, that people were like, oh, yeah, John Gruden will come to Tennessee.
For years.
Like,
they still talk about it.
And then when he was a broadcaster, you know, at Monday Night Football, having to do far less work. And here's the other thing. Part of the reason that NFL coaches will not go back to college willingly, I mean, if you get fired in the NFL and can't get an NFL coaching job, maybe you go back to college, is that you don't have to recruit. You don't have to walk into a 16-year-old's room and kiss his ass. You don't have to do that in the NFL. You have to deal with millionaires, which is a different kind of a hard thing. But guess what? When the season's over, you can go fishing for 8 weeks. You don't have to do anything. You know, it's like...
Well, and just the bottom line is he's just a dang good professional football coach. I mean, it's silly.
Their quarterback has gotten older.
Well, yeah.
He's not as productive. There's a couple of things that also have worked against him, and right now they're struggling through that. But Mike Tomlin, I'd hire him. I'd hire him in a heartbeat. There are maybe 8 to 10 jobs in the NFL that wouldn't. And I'm talking about because they like who they have now.
To the Texas point, yeah, like the Detroit Lions would call him in 2 seconds. Yeah, I mean, any job, he could have half the league's jobs. I mean, yeah, it's silly. He would not leave the NFL.
There's a couple of comments as well. This is from Joseph, Super Chat. Joseph Kirkpatrick, thank you. Going to 10 games, going to stop the Big 12 from playing any marquee out-of-conference games. No, I think that's a great question, and I don't know. I would think you'd still want to do that. I think the college football playoff expansion, going to 12 at some point, which it will do, which is slowed down a little bit now because of all the realignment, expansion, et cetera. I think that, I still think you want to play the very nice marquee conference games. Now you only have 2 of them to choose from because Baylor finally has non-conference games that are somewhat marquee. Brigham Young, Utah, Auburn, Oregon. And so, those games are on your schedule. And, so I don't think you're going to stop seeing Alabama play, some big-time but that's a different conference. They can still do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech is hanging on by a thread as far as bowl eligibility goes. They'd be totally done if not for non-conference games. I mean, period. I mean, if they were to have gone and played like another, I mean, maybe they beat a Houston type team and they do sit in the same exact spot, but the odds would go down, obviously, because you wouldn't have a second game at the very least that you're pretty positive, like, we're going to beat SFA, even though that was actually dicey. But, there's certainly positives and negatives to it, and it's good to hear everybody's feedback, but I am in agreement. If it was going to somehow hurt bowl eligibility for anybody involved, then it's an automatic no-go because of how important that is, and the last thing you want to do is see your teams grow by numbers, but yet your accolades go down as a result of that. You're adding more teams, you want more bowl teams. You don't want less. So, you'd have to figure that out.
All right, a lot of you on the chat room, text line. Also, we're having an issue with the phone line. We'll try to get that figured out. We've sent something into their customer service. And also on the Premium Insider SicEm365.com as well. One note, college basketball, Nalissa Smith, preseason All-American team, Baylor women's basketball team, no question. She might be the best player in the country. Of course, there's Beckers and much more as well involved in that. Craig's off the radar. We'll touch in on the World Series at 4:45, I believe. When we come back, we'll hear from Michigan State's Graham Couch, or he's not from Michigan State. He covers them for the Lansing newspaper. They have Michigan. Both teams are unbeaten. Both teams in the top 10. Both teams playing pretty well. And both teams bouncing back from a pretty tough year a year ago. Next on SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer still in pipe. You could just say 1943 and walk away. They're in business, still in business, getting bigger, better, faster, stronger, new location in the Waco area that's being built right now. Pipe, steel, metal. They build or help you build heavy-duty things. Buildings, culverts, entryways, whatever you want. That's what they do. And they've done that since 1943. Do you realize how good you have to be able to survive all the different changes in the world, the country, whatever, the economy? 1943, and here they are. And I'm telling you right now, I've been on their lot before in the Waco area, and they have one in Bryan as well. They're open Saturdays 8 to noon if you need to get there because you can't during the week. Online, pioneerboys.com. Place is always busy. And you might be the one that you see other people there. Always busy. Energy, always busy. And yet you feel like you're the only one that's there because that's what they try to make you feel like. Not that there's not other people building or buying things. They are. And they want you to, not just one time, they want you to come back. You don't go since 1943 if your customers don't come back for more product because they like you and they love the product as well. Pioneer still in pipe since 1943. Waco and Bryan, pioneerboys.com.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $4,000 down, cash or trade. See dealer for details.
Hit the road and save on a reliable pre-owned vehicle from Richard Carr. Savings like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $211 a month or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $288 a month. Plus, we pay top dollar for your trade. All pre-owned cars and trucks go through a 172-point inspection. With multiple lenders, we say yes when others say no. Hit the road and save at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
That Big Ten Eastern Division has 4 teams, 4-0. Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. Ohio State has the hickey to Oregon. Penn State's kind of, all of a sudden, they got a couple of losses themselves. But it's still, I mean, you're looking at some great games coming up, and nothing better perhaps right now this weekend. Maybe Michigan and Michigan State, both teams 7-0 for the first time ever this late in the year, both unbeaten. Joined by Graham Couch. He covers Michigan State for the Lansing newspaper on Sikkim 365 Radio. Graham, what's the build-up like? How much is at stake here other than the obvious of the division?
Well, that's a good question because Ohio State looks like they may be at another level. So this may be like one of those late 1980s, early 90s AFC championship games where the winner is just going to get pummeled anyway eventually. But for both, these have been sort of revival seasons for their programs, and they're in different stages. Jim Harbaugh, year 7, Mel Tucker, year 2, and I think that is where therein lies the difference, right? There's a lot more pressure on Michigan, sort of from a macro perspective, to win this game because Harbaugh's 3-3 against Michigan State, 0-5 against Ohio State. Neither of those are acceptable to that fan base. They've already cut his salary, so if he doesn't do well against those 2 teams this year, and that doesn't mean beating both, but probably beating Michigan State and being in the same stratosphere as Ohio State, I don't think he's back. Whereas for Michigan State, it's much more of an opportunity. Like if they beat Michigan, Mel Tucker's 2-0. No Michigan State's coach has ever done that against Michigan in their first 2 tries. It's 10 wins in 14 years over Michigan, which is pretty incredible. So it's sort of a firm grip on the rivalry. So I think from a big picture perspective, there's more pressure on Michigan. But whoever loses this game, there is a sort of a massive thud in this season. And I think the thing that's different is they've never been undefeated together this late. And you can say they've never been ranked this high, but pollsters don't really know squat. I mean, there have been years where they probably should have been higher ranked than this, and they weren't. So, I mean, that's not really a thing to me. But I do think there is a hopefulness and combined with an uneasiness that you don't usually see from both sides, where nobody knows that their team is better than the other. Both are optimistic that this can be something, but there's no certainty. There's no feeling like this is surely going to happen.
Graham, how much, if they do win, how much will they have to pay Mel Tucker to stay if the LSU job gets even more hot around him?
Yeah, that's a great question. What he's looking for and whether he'd leave. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to, 22 years ago in 99, was the last time these 2 teams were undefeated facing each other. That was Nick Saban's last year at Michigan State. The next week, Michigan State faced Purdue, just like this year. And later that year, their coach left for LSU. So, I do think my understanding talking to people around the administration is not as so much his salary. I mean, obviously $9 million is a lot of money, and Michigan State is not going to be able to match if LSU pays what he made, what Ed Orgeron made. But what they can do is try to show that sort of all the support that needs to be around him in terms of to give him a shot to win a national title someplace can exist. And that's, the private planes on recruiting, the SUVs to pick up recruits. That's the facility upgrades, some of which are in the works. I mean, those sort of things are important to Tucker, from what I understand. Now, he may ultimately decide he wants to jump and go, and I have no idea if he'll do that. But they're not going to be able to match what LSU pays. So if it's simply about a payday and making more money, and he sees that as a more advantageous program, like the one thing about LSU that's interesting is Mel Tucker is very close with Nick Saban, and Nick Saban made that move, but he also tried to come back. He didn't want to make that move. I mean, Michigan State would not have held on to Saban beyond forever because he would have had that NFL itch, and eventually wound up with the Dolphins, and somebody like Alabama had called. But he only left for LSU because of a spat with the school president, and then he tried to come back, and they wouldn't let him come back. So I don't know that it's as obvious a thing, and I think LSU is also a program that won a national title 2 years ago and is now firing their coach. So in terms of what you're walking into and what sort of place you want to be, he got the new AD he wants at Michigan State. So it's really about what are his priorities. You're making $5.5 million a year, third most in the Big Ten. Michigan State might be able to do a little more, but you basically know what you're going to make at Michigan State. You know what you're going to be, what you're going to have, and it's, I think, at a certain level, what you want for yourself.
Graham, it's been a little while since they played. Last suiting up a couple Saturdays ago against Indiana, and that was a tough game. That was one that they were able to get by and remain undefeated. But what did that game kind of tell you about where they are, and what has that led to as far as the focus goes over the last week plus in terms of preparing for Michigan?
Well, I think that's the second time we've seen a defense outplay Michigan State for at least parts of the game, and how much they struggle with that when that happens. I mean, when you can take away their running game, which has been dynamic at times, with just your front seven, without putting a whole lot of extra attention on it, you can give Michigan State some problems because they've got a really smart young quarterback who's very accurate. They've got a couple explosive receivers. They obviously have a great running back, and their offensive line has improved, but it's not a offensive line that's just going to maul anybody. So I think that's really the question is you can make Michigan State strong. Indiana their defense flatly outplayed Michigan State, and if Indiana had a better offense, would have won that game. So that's what you take away is if you can control the line of scrimmage, you can limit Michigan State, and so if you're Michigan, the blueprint is there. The question for Michigan is the teams that have given Michigan State some trouble are teams that can also throw the ball a little bit. Michigan hasn't had to win that way. So to me, it's going to come down to a lot of who can do what they want to do. And Michigan has been beating up on, they've been running the ball extremely well. Michigan State against the middle of the pack and down on defenses has really dominated the Big Ten. But this is largely the first quality competition either has faced this year. Not really of their own fault. Washington and Miami wound up being, Washington was down this year. Their defense was carrying the day and eventually broke. Miami is always a disappointment, and that's who Michigan State played, and they've sort of fallen off a cliff. Nebraska beats itself every week. Both teams played them. So there are a lot. Neither team has played an opponent where you go, wow, look what they did against them. And that's why there's a lot of uncertainty because people just don't know. And ultimately, I think both these teams are probably somewhere around top 15 level teams, fairly equal, even though they're different. And, but whoever wins the game gets to move on living a blissful existence for at least a week longer.
Graham, the fact you just said that about Nebraska breaks my heart.
He's a Nebraska fan, Graham.
You are so true. God bless you, sir, for being true. Being true, sir. Never has everything been more true than what you just said.
That Michigan State one was a tough one.
Oh, that was the one. Yeah, the punt. Let's kick it to the wrong guy. So this is fun though, and you're right. Ohio State looks like they're kind of getting their mojo back together just in time for a late season run as well. I like what Mel Tucker did at Colorado. I like what he's doing now. And the fact that this is kind of like, let's just go out and play rather than the pressure on Michigan State. How good are they, in your opinion? How good is Michigan State? They've won a few times with smoke and mirrors, but how good do you think they are?
Well, they've got some guys that are, legit. I mean, they've got some NFL guys, and they're both their receivers are NFL players. Their running back is an NFL player. The left side of their offensive line is going to play in the league, and their quarterback is. I think a lot of it comes down to how quickly he grows into what I think he'll become. And, he is a redshirt sophomore, first year as a starter, and is he ready yet when things are shut down and the running game and to really, carry the day a little bit? And he hasn't been to this point. But you talk to him, a very, very sophisticated player. He's the son of his dad's a Division III head coach. His grandfather was a Division III head coach. He comes from he threw an interception in the end zone last week, and you talked to him about it. And it's the analysis of what went wrong and why it went wrong and what he missed and where he should have gone with the ball is just, it's not like he's some doofus who you go, boy, you get it at certain points that he's going to, and so the question is, and I think Michigan State's ceiling is largely around, can he grow into something that makes their offense just such a pain to deal with by the time they get to Ohio State that they have a chance in a game like that? Because they, defensively in the middle of the line, I think they're really good. They're okay on the edge. Safety is the strength of their defense. They've got a safety who's definitely going to play in the NFL. They got two decent corners, guys who transfer from Florida and Alabama, respectively. Got a linebacker who's prototypical, who once he figures out where he's supposed to be, will play in the NFL. He's a younger player. And so they've got some talent. And, he's remade that roster really fast with the transfer portal. And so they're good. They're just they're not overwhelming. And but they've sort of had that it factor. They don't beat themselves. And neither does Michigan, to their credit.
Thank you, Graham. Appreciate it. Have fun. Lansing State Journal. Graham Couch joins us on SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports on Michigan and Michigan State. Coming up next, we have Florida on the clock. Edgar Thompson talks about the Gators. They're being hurt with recruiting right now. They're struggling. Dan Mullen under fire. What? We'll get into all of that and more. SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza with the original sauce they've had from back in the late 80s when they opened up. Now over 1,000 stores, 4 of them in the Waco area, including the new location in Robinson, plus where they have already been in Woodway, Belmead, and China Spring. Bob Mock is the owner, been in the pizza business for a couple of decades, knows what he's doing. He's done everything from make the pizzas, delivering the pizzas, and everything else in between, and now owning stores of Marco's Pizza. We love them. I know that when we order the pizza from Marco's, they get here quickly, right around the corner in the Belmead location. My favorite is the thin crust, all meat with extra Italian sausage. Yours might be something that has all the veggies on it. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's going to be good, including the 3-cheese combination on top. Marco's Pizza also has wings and salads and sandwiches and more. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. SicEm Bears.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
So recently, a northern transplant in our fair city came in to pick up outfitters for the first time, and he was starstruck. He told us that truck accessories were not needed in Illinois. I know, pick your jaw up off the ground. An entire state full of trucks driving around completely nude. Then he said he saw the light when he moved to Texas and found that in Texas, truck accessories were a necessity. I don't know about a necessity, but Texans have a whole different attitude about their trucks, and they give them their rightful place as a family member. I mean, what exactly do you use your truck for if you're not going to put anything on it? All this is a warning for the good people of Central Texas to stay diligent. Don't let your truck look like it came from up north. Put something on that truck, for goodness sakes. A bumper, a lift kit, some running boards. At Pickup Outfitters, we know what your truck needs. So come and see us at 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco, or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Shorter motions to the bottom of your screen. Some motion down there as Tennessee almost came into the neutral zone. And Emory Jones to a wide open Malik Davis. Touchdown, Gators.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Florida had that game in which they pushed Alabama to the limit, 31-29 back in mid-September. And then losses to Kentucky right after a win against Vanderbilt. That loss to LSU a couple of weeks ago. They have Georgia in the cocktail party coming up this weekend. We're now joined by Edgar Thompson. He covers the Florida Gators. Joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio as well, along with 365 Sports here on the YouTube channel and from, the Orlando Sentinel. Who are the Gators, Edgar? Are they Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Who are they? There? We got it?
Edgar, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh,
they are
okay.
a team, sorry about that, fellas. They are a team that is struggling to find ways to win close ball games, is what I'll say. They're a team that is failing to create enough explosive types of plays defensively and offensively. And it's just been a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, but close. In the minds of Gator fans, it's a recipe to get rid of Dan Mullen, which I think is a little bit premature, personally. But there's it's just a bad situation here. The standard here is extremely high, and 4-3 doesn't cut it. And certainly very, very, very likely it'll be 4-4 after this weekend against Georgia.
Edgar, he is in a bit of a quarterback pickle with trying to make Emory Jones work, and I know that Richardson is probably the guy that everybody wants, and he's not immune to turnovers, but he's probably immune to some of the really bad ones that Emory Jones has. When will he kind of buck up and just pick one guy?
I think that by the South Carolina game, which is November 6th, after this game on the road, it has to be Anthony Richardson's team. It might be handed over this week at Georgia, or against Georgia and Jacksonville, because he doesn't have a choice at this point. There's nothing to lose. And you've seen enough of the body of work of Emory Jones to realize great kid, team player, all the things you want. Class act, hard worker, just doesn't get it done. He's late on throws, doesn't diagnose quickly. He's a talented runner, but he's not even as good a runner as Anthony. And Anthony's just got a bigger arm. He seems to be more accurate, quicker decision maker. If not for the hamstring injury he suffered at the end of an 80-yard touchdown run where he basically outran like everybody on the field, the kid would have probably had the job before by now. Maybe Kentucky game might have been the switch. I don't know, but it's coming. And that's the future, and everyone can see it, including, I'm sure, Emory Jones. Now, he might have a role. He might come off the bench and give you a spark here and there or do something, change the pace. He knows the offense. There might be situations that he's just better to be in. But Anthony is going to give you those explosives that this offense just lacks. You got to have explosive plays, man, in this game now. I mean, it's always been beneficial, but now it's essential.
Edgar, I know players probably don't, say too much in terms of the negative. They're smart, but any insider idea into how, the kind of upheaval or of sorts or uncertainty, I should say, about, the quarterback spot? How much of an effect has that had, if any?
Players are all in on whatever the plan is at QB from what they say.
Right.
You never know what's going on in the locker room, but Emory's been here 4 years. Anthony's been here 2, but one of them was the weird COVID year, no spring practice, no real full team meetings, full quarterback room sessions, none of that. So this is really his first year. He's 19 still, turned it in May, and he's a young guy. So Emory has a lot of gravitas with this team and in the soccer room. But I think they can see what's going on. They can see who the better player is, and they want to win games. But so I don't know that it's a big controversy. They back both guys, but they want to win games at this point, and they want to upset Georgia and ruin the Bulldogs season. Rival team, number 1 team in the nation. Gators are playing the number 1 team here, guys, for the second time in 6 weeks, for 6 games. Alabama was number 1 coming into the Swamp. So, you don't get those kind of opportunities very often in a season, 2 number 1s in one season. So they see this is a chance to salvage a season that's been highly disappointing thus far.
Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel, Florida, and Georgia coming up this weekend. I did notice Julian Humphrey, a highly recruited player who's committed to Florida, has made a decommitment. It's been a couple of guys that are highly rated for this class of 2022, and signing day is just a couple of months away, less than that. How much has that created some smoke when it comes to Florida fan base as well?
It's a 5-alarm fire, man. It ain't just smoke over here. This is the big situation, the big knock on Dan. It always has kind of been that they rely on developing more than signing the best guy, the best talent. Doesn't mean they can get it. I mean, you take your, you take your shot and you land the person or not, and they haven't done that enough. But some people think that's because of Dan's laissez-faire attitude toward recruiting, that he feels like he can uncover hidden gems, develop them. He's done that for years. I mean, at Mississippi State, that was his calculus. But that didn't have to be that at Florida. You have a down Florida State program, a down Miami program, right? I mean, UCF's even like tailing off a little, but you can't beat UCF going to beat Florida for a recruit most times anyway. But the problem is Florida used to be like back in the day of the Big Three, right? In the 90s, Miami, Florida State, Florida, when they were ruling college football, essentially. I mean, Nebraska was certainly in there and a couple others, but they own the state. Now the state is invaded constantly, right? I mean, you're being invaded by Ohio State, by Clemson. All these other schools are coming in here and pilfering recruits out of your backyard, and Alabama, and they're very frustrated when they see that, fans are. So, yeah, Dan needs to pick it up on the recruiting trail, bottom line. And that's really holding this program back potentially because, you know, they're signing 5-stars off the transfer wire portal, and those are guys that really needed a change of scenery for whatever reason, and they're not like the true young impact guy that you're like bringing in from day one and developing in your system from the moment, you know, he arrived. So it's a rough road, man, on the recruiting trail right now for the Gators, and they need to find a way to smooth it out and get some guys. Now, adding to it, fellas, is the fact that Dan Mullen got a show cause penalty 2 years ago, 2019. He had texted a recruit. I mean, some of these rules are absurd. I mean, it didn't seem like a big deal to me, but it's against the rule, whatever he did. Got a show cause. They took him off the road for the fall of 2020, plus 4 days into 2021. Well, due to COVID restrictions, they actually ended up applying it to this fall. So Dan can't even go on the road. So think about this. You're like losing recruits. You're not recruiting well. It's like the thing everyone's screaming and yelling about, and you want to fix it and help to, like, get it going. And you got to sit at home with your wife and kids because you can't recruit. You can't go out on the road. So it's a pretty cruel irony going on right now because Dan might not be the aggressive recruiter or cut of the Urban Meyer cloth, Ron Cook, even Muschamp, but he wants to be out there guaranteed right now, and he can't.
Edgar, you brought up the 90s. I'm a Florida State grad and I graduated in 2002. So, like, that was the pinnacle of all the teams being good, of Miami and Florida State and Florida. And it's funny, as a fan, sometimes you'd be like, oh, it's great that the other teams suck right now. But really, all three teams being bad has allowed the wall to come down around Florida recruiting-wise. So, really, in kind of a weird way, all those three teams need each other to be good again so that they can keep the players in state fighting against each other.
Yeah, no, I like the point because they did. They all started kind of struggling. Urban, I'm telling you, man, Jeremy Foley, the former AD here, who is a legend in these parts and built a tremendous athletics program. But in some ways, I don't want to say the game passed him by. I mean, Jeremy's very smart and still, you know, on top of things. But it's like he didn't see facilities and fundraising and all that as like the biggest thing to do, right? The 21st century AD, post-2010 is what I would really say. That's the paradigm now. You got to be a fundraiser, you got to build facilities, and you got to push that aspect of everything. Jeremy kind of didn't do that, and they're paying the price now because the facilities here are behind. They got an $85 million standalone that's being erected as we speak, will be done next spring. But they're way behind. Everyone has that. They got an indoor practice facility because Jim McElwain came in and basically demanded it. Well, Muschamp wanted one. Urban wanted one. In fact, a lot of people think that was a big sticking point with him and Foley. But Muschamp did not push it as hard as he needed to. And, you know, one of his top players, like, blew out his knee on a wet field. Dominic Easley. So anyway, the point I'm making is Florida's lagging a bit because of some of these things that they've done, didn't do. But now, you got Scott Strickland in here, and he's got some things that need to get straight under his watch, man.
Edgar, I know that the turnovers were a big part of the problem against LSU, but that LSU run game was able to do whatever they wanted to, well over 300 yards. Is there a concern about the Gators' defense? And obviously Georgia's going to run the football, so what do you think has maybe changed from their last outing against the Tigers in order to try and best as they can contain the Bulldogs?
I mean, concern would be putting it mildly. It is you think there's a 5-alarm fire with recruiting. I got it, the code red on defense. They are up in arms here because Todd Grantham came back in the first place. Dan retained Todd. They have a good relationship. They've been together since 17 at Mississippi State. Todd certainly has SEC experience, a good track record, and produced good defenses his first 2 years here. Well, last year it was terrible, historically bad, 30.8 points a game. A lot of defenses struggled after COVID. I mean, if you go look at the statistics, but they went from like top 10 defense, like 80-something last year. Most points allowed per game since World War II by the Gators. So it was bad. A lot of people wanted Todd gone. They brought him back, and it was going pretty well. I mean, good, but not great. Missed tackles, as I said, not forcing enough turnovers. They're forced 6 and 8 in 7 games this year. I mean, it's not going to cut it. But last week or 2 weeks ago, the wheels fell off. LSU just kept running the same counter and power run plays right up the middle of the defense and just gashed them. It was amazing. That team was averaging 83 yards a game rushing. They rushed for 321. One player rushed for 287, a school record at LSU. Think all the great backs that place is at. So that was a nightmare. And now Todd Grantham is, there's no path back for Todd Grantham at this point. I guess if they shut out Georgia and shut out 3 other teams, they might reconsider. But, I mean, at this point, his contract expires. Todd Grantham will be working somewhere else next year.
I got to ask you this, Edgar, because I saw part of your bio for the Orlando Sentinel. An addiction to hot peppers. Have you ever had a ghost pepper?
I mean, I've done the ghost pepper sauce. I mean, I have hot sauces in here that make your head come off. But I eat jalapenos with every meal. I mean, I got a pile of them in there right now. I lived in New Mexico for like 16 years and just developed a real hot pepper. I'm a hot pepper enthusiast. But yeah, now there's a seafood place here in Gainesville, fantastic seafood. I live in Gainesville. I'm just like a couple miles from the swamp here. And they have like an array of them. In fact, the other day, the owner walked out and said, "Hey, I got this new stuff from Daytona. You want to try it?" I said, "Sure, I'll buy some." He goes, "No, just take it." He goes, "I want to get your review."
Wow.
So now I'm reviewing sauces. I've gotten to the point like that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Hey, good stuff, Edgar. Glad we got you on, man. Really good. Glad you could be a part of it, and have fun this weekend at the cocktail party.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Have me anytime, fellas. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel. It's Florida and also Georgia in the big party down in Jacksonville.
I just came to a realization that I have to, I do miss everything being good. The 90s were fun. It's not so much as fun when every team sucks.
Yeah,
and you play each other.
The board.
So now I have to root for Miami and Florida to get good again.
Yeah.
Along with your own team.
I know. I mean, like everybody together. Like, let's all do this. Let's come together.
Yeah. And then when they all get good again, if they ever do, which is hard, you're like, God, I hate Florida.
Why did I have to do? Why did I wish for this?
All right.
I think it's interesting. Mullen's not in any danger. He's not going to have a Matt Wells situation, where like they get beat this weekend and turn around and you're fired. And they don't think he's probably in much danger of being fired this offseason unless they were just to completely tank. But, they're at least starting that watch, and that is interesting. And, that quarterback debacle, man, the quarterback position will just throw you for a loop, man. It really will.
It takes the Gators historically about 2 years to eat their young. I mean, like, that's what they do. So it'll be this year and then at the end of next year. Ron Zook should have been gone long before he was. But there was this, if this just works out, like, no, it's not going to work out.
From Quentin Dude on the chat room, I eat jalapenos all of the time, too. Thank you, Quentin. Glad to have you. Glad you have the show.
I have no idea what the joy is of eating a pepper because I have the weakest spice palate of anybody. Like I can't do any spice whatsoever. It's just not for me. I wish I knew what the enjoyment was of having that heat and actually liking that because I have the complete opposite reaction.
Edgar could go on Hot Ones.
I was thinking of Hot Ones. Yeah, I would love to go on that show for the experience. There's no chance. I wouldn't go past the first wing. I'm such a wuss when it comes to that.
I remember the first time I hit a jalapeno and I thought I was eating a pickle. And believe me, it was bad. Bad. Spices are for men. That's from Max. Who, by the way, Max, if you're listening, let me tell you something. You need to calm down some of the things you're saying on the chat room. We're going to nuke you in a little bit, so be careful. In fact, somebody just did. Spices, there's certain, sometimes it's just how you're built as far as your stomach, whatever you can. There's to a point where it's too much for me, and doesn't have to be all that spicy as well. Craig, you like it you're basically
I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I don't like any spice.
Yeah, I know.
I was at Nashville thinking I was a tough guy back in April, and went to a hot chicken place. And I asked the person, hey, what's really hot? And they're like, oh, you can do the second level. It's fine. Everybody here can. And then I think they were just doing it to watch me go, poof.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that.
Start praying the rosary.
From a sense of humor, J.G. Neolardo. Bubba, try being Mexican and not liking spice. Social outcast.
I bet.
When we come back, Marcus Sedberry of Baylor Athletics next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
If you are looking for a new home or trying to sell the one you're in, look, if you're trying to sell your house right now, it's a great time. It's a seller's market. Don't do what one of my neighbors has done and put a for sale by owner sign in your yard. It has just sat there over and over again, and they keep doing stuff to the house and making it look nicer, but nobody has come to buy it. You want a realtor. You get your house out there, your home out there, show it to people, have them come in, look at it, make you an offer, and make that money you want to make on a house. Lance Donaldson, the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty, can do that for you. 254-214-713 or online at lancedonaldson.exprealty.com. Believe me, you do not want to go into the real estate market on your own. You need somebody in your corner, somebody you're going to enjoy working with, which I promise you will. Lance, he's a fantastic guy. You're going to have fun looking at houses with him, and he's going to make you the best deal he possibly can. Selling or buying, whatever that is, that's Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Give them a call, 254-214-3713.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to gencofcu.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Marcus Sedberry, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Student Athlete Success, joins us on this Tuesday. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marcus, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Huge week with the B Association, the Hall of Fame, the induction. Andrew Mellentry, who's one of those who is going in. I've known him since he was back in the 70s, quite frankly.
Wow.
Yeah, because he went to Tyler Junior College. So did I. He went to John Tyler. And he's thrilled. He was wanting me to sit at his table, but I've got high school football that night. How much fun is this week? I know it's a lot on your plate, but how much fun to see these inductees going in here pretty soon?
This is a special weekend. We're excited about it. We have a great show planned to be able to have our 2020 Hall of Fame folks and Wall of Honor, as well as our 2021, to be able to have all of them here to celebrate their success, to be able to meet their families and maybe have their families come back for the first time in a long time. This is going to be a special weekend, and we're really looking forward to it.
Marcus, with that BYU game and how packed it was and that kind of atmosphere, what kind of ideas do you kind of glean from that when you try to build forward for how can Baylor travel as well? How can you kind of grow that kind of sentiment among your own fan base?
You know, the BYU game was great in that I think it showed our young people, our young men, and even our fans, like who we could be, you know, who we are. I remember coming out of the tunnel and with the team and seeing the blue that were in the stands, and we were initially kind of being a little nervous, and they were loud, made their presence felt. But I loved how our fans responded. You know, they made sure they understood that this is our house. And I think what that should show our fans is that home field matters, and that we need to come out, we need to be loud, we need to let our presence be felt. But it also is an example of how we can show up other places. I know we have very passionate fans who love Baylor, who love this team, who love what the Coach Aranda and the program that they're doing. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to be able to go and travel. We have a few games coming up here that they will have a chance to come and let their presence be felt in somebody else's backyard. So we hope that people take that challenge, and we're excited knowing that they will.
Marcus, you are in the business of helping young people. I was just curious, and I don't know if we've asked you this before, but where did that desire to help out young people and that passion to help out young people come from and lead you into the career you're in now?
So I good question. I started, I think I started in the college or in the sports business. I would say even as a kid. My dad was a high school football coach and athletic director, and so I remember being in a laundry room doing laundry with my dad as young as 8 years old and helping him. Back then they had the old reel tapes and helping him cut tapes and all that stuff. But I just know over the course of my career as a student athlete at Nebraska, there were people who poured into me, who helped me understand that me running track was great, but that's not who I was. That's just what I did. And they helped me realize that I'm much more than that and I have much more to offer to the world. And so I think that really helped me realize the impact I might be able to have on others. I ended up having career-ending injuries. And when I thought really life was worthless and I didn't, have much to live for, went through a stage of depression and all of that, there were people there who poured into me to help me see that there's so much more to life. And that's only a short period of time. And so now I get a chance to be that person for others. I get to, hire great people who are able to serve and support our student athletes and coaches in that way to make sure that they know you got 4 or 5 years here, pour your all into your sport while you have it, because at some point, even if you go on to play in professionals, at some point it's going to end and you have a whole life ahead of you.
So
I think that's really where it comes from.
So a lot of what we've seen recently and about the depression, mental anxiety, all that stuff, of course, last year was a bizarre once in 100 years or more type thing. How much did that help you to help others because of what you've dealt with?
Sometimes when we go through things, we are so consumed with how we feel about it and the impact on us. It's hard in the moment to think about the impact you might be able to have on others in the future because of the experiences that you've gone through. And so there's times last year where, people who, I remember our track student athletes, they were at indoor nationals about to compete. And we called and asked them to come home. And so to get your senior, you're thinking you're going to compete in the national championships and you aren't able to do that. And you don't have any other year, any years remaining, or our basketball guys who weren't able to come back, like to be able to have conversations with them about your sport being snatched away. I'm thankful now in hindsight for my experience because I know what that feels like. I can tell you from experience what that feels like, not just what I read in the book or not just some story from somebody else. I was able to connect with them in a deep way. And so I think it really helped us across the board recognize that, we think of these 18 to 22-year-olds as invincible in a lot of ways. We cheer them on, we criticize them and all that. But reality is they're still young people growing up who go through tough things personally, in their family and so forth. And it's our job to help support them through all of that.
So are you seeing maybe the people come out of the fog a little bit of 2020 and how hard that year was now? I mean, and there's probably going to be some long-lasting stresses to that, right, because of how up and down it was. But are you starting to see that people maybe come out of it now because, we've had a fairly normal season, like 95% normal?
Yeah, it's funny to watch them slowly come out of it. It's almost like, you've been cooped up for a while, and you're not sure if you can go outside, or you're not sure if you can go to the places that you used to go. And we've seen that from some of our student athletes. That their rhythm is just disconnected because of last year. And so they're slowly starting to come out. You slowly start to see them socialize a little bit more, see them come to our facility and study spaces as opposed to being cooped up and studying on their beds or in their apartments or dorms. But that's still taking an adjustment for them. And, but you can tell that they come to life when they are around other people and when they are able to, mix between the different sports and engage in some of the resources that we have for them. And we think it's going to only help them be even better over the course of their athletic season as well as the academic year.
So I'm sitting there and I realized you were at Central Florida at one point as an assistant or I guess assistant AD to the AD, is that right? Or assistant to the athletic director? So you can give us an idea. We know what they have done and how they have been growing, and they had a huge win against Memphis. But so what do you think, since you've been there before, and I think your wife got a degree from there, or maybe she worked there at the same time. How much does this mean to Central Florida, the incoming opportunities with the Big 12?
It's big. I mean, even then, I remember us talking about trying to build a program that eventually might be able to get to this level. And that was a pipe dream at that point. At that point, we had just gotten into Conference USA. We were trying to really establish ourselves as a dominant force in Florida. Didn't want to be the little brother anymore to Florida State, Miami. Like all of that was a dream that Keith Dribble talked about and got coaches to believe in back then. And so I remember us building a new football facility and basketball arena on campus. And things just took off, and the enrollment was off the charts, out of this world. And I truly believe UCF is built for Big 12 ball. I think that they can compete across all sports. I think as they get more resources, they're going to compete at an even higher level. I think where Florida sports are right now, they're in great position to be able to step up from that number 4 or 5 spot to maybe to the number 3 spot there, and be able to compete with Florida State, some of the blue bloods, if you will. I think that they are primed for this type of opportunity, and the way they do it will be on being cutting edge, not being the traditional way of doing things, but more risky with how they go about, branding themselves and all of that. And I think there's a generation of young people who like that, who want to go and make their own mark, not just be a part of tradition at Florida State, and those places. And so I think that they're going to come in the league. I think they're going to be somebody that we all have to respect and show up against across all sports.
Well, Marcus, speaking from as an alum of one of those schools in Tallahassee, could you make some of them maybe go back to Tallahassee? we miss them.
I've heard that from some of my other Tallahassee friends.
Yeah.
Marcus, the Baylor fan base has been through a lot, and they've seen a drought after the Grant Taft years, and then, of course, they saw the surge, and then, of course, then everything kind of went to hell in 2015-16. And then, they've gotten up off the mat and supported this the program. Do you still sense, though, there's more that this fan base can understand about what it should be like to be a football fan inside the stadium and the kind of noise and energy it should bring? And I'm talking week in and week out, and maybe understand moments during the game?
Yeah, one thing that's been really impressive to me has been the love that Baylor fans have for Baylor. I mean, it's deep. It's really deep. When you talk about, especially when you start to talk about some of the other schools in the state and how people love those institutions, I don't think that Baylor fans and the Baylor family take a backseat to any of them. I think the degree is well respected. I think their passion for the university, all of that is really, really real. And what we all hope is that we continue to put on our football field, on our basketball court, any field of competition that we're in, put something out there that the Baylor family is really proud of, and that they can rally behind it, and that they want to come fill the stands every week, that they want to not only just brag about it Monday through Friday, but will want to be there on Saturday to be a part of it. So that maybe they're bringing out their family and they're teaching their young, their son or their daughter what it means to be a Baylor Bear, what it means to be in a packed football stadium, in a packed arena, and to cheer loud for a national contending program. Like, we want that to be the norm, and we want generation upon generation of the Baylor family to feel that, to know that, and take great pride in that. And I think part of that's on us to continue to do that. And the other part of it is for our fan base to embrace that, to know that to be big time, you got to be big time. And be big time means showing up day in, day out, week in, week out, to make sure that we have a home court, home field advantage, and that our young people know that we have a whole family behind them cheering them on.
Can you try to, and one more question, we appreciate you, again, Marcus Sedbury, Baylor Athletics. Can you try to describe what it has been like since late July when the Texas and Oklahoma story popped with the SEC, and how much has been discussed and what the Big 12 has been able to do to not only stop the bleeding or hemorrhaging, but also get back on their feet and look forward? What's that been like inside some of your executive meetings?
The truth is there are times, if I'm just honest with you, there's times where there's a lot of uncertainty. You're not sure. You see and hear reports, and I'm thankful for Mac because he was at the forefront of leading the Big 12 through the process. So we knew a little bit about what he was up to and how he was trying to help lead the Big 12 and what the commissioner and other leaders were doing across the conference. But you still never really know. You can have the best laid plans, but sometimes things don't go the way that you want them to. So you're still trying to figure out how it's all going to shake out. I think one thing that we had great resolve in and comfort in was that we felt like Baylor was going to be okay no matter what. It might look different, it might feel a little different, but no matter how this shakes out, we truly believe we are in a great position across all sports. The academic profile of our institution, like all of those things, we're in a good position to come out of this in a good space regardless. And then as you start to see some of it materialize, some people, you heard people kind of questioning it, but you start thinking about those 4 teams that we're bringing in. We're really strong. And I get that, that there may be some affinity to some of the teams because of the Texas ties and Big 12 and Southwest Conference, all those things. I get all of that. But to really look at the numbers and understand who these programs are, yes, it's not a Texas in the sense of kind of some of the history that are there. But you look at football right now, Cincinnati looks really good. BYU is a great program. UCF, I would argue, without their quarterback going down, they'd still be a highly ranked team. I think Houston, same thing. They have the potential to do some really great things. I think across the board, we saw, as Max started to lay it out for us, we saw the bigger picture. And when you see the big picture, we feel like the Big 12 is in a great place. And then for Baylor fans and the Baylor family, I think we are primed in a great position to really step up and lead top to bottom.
Marcus, thank you, man. Always great to see you. He's at the Dave Aranda weekly pressers as well. You see him everywhere, and he's got that huge B Association event coming up, in fact, this weekend as well. That's Marcus Setbury with us from Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio. And I just saw that looking through his bio, and UCF, Florida, Central Florida, Senior Associate AD Student Athlete Success.
Yeah, I hope it's a good crowd this weekend. There's still some tickets remaining, which is disappointing. I know that the typical characters, Colt Barber being one of them, has tried to rally the troops. I don't know what more you could want. It's going to be beautiful weather. It's the only negative is the 11 a.m. kickoff, and I get that to some extent. I don't, however, get any complaints about a kickoff time when you're 6-1 and you're welcoming in Texas. I don't. I don't care if they're kicking off at 8 a.m. If we have to be here for a 6 a.m. pregame show, guess what? I'm going to be here, and I'm going to make sure I'm at that game, and I'm working. So I kind of have to, but as a fan, if Texas was rolling in for one of the probably final 2 times they'll play in Waco for the next 20 years most likely, and this was a situation where my team was 6-1 and firmly in the top 25 and maybe flirting with the top 15, top 10 after this weekend if you win, that's enough for me. And I hope it's a good crowd, and I hope that, and by saying that, I don't mean like the BYU crowd where it was like 50-50 practically. At least that's the way it felt. I mean more along the lines of 60-40 at worst, but
they will do. Look, the Longhorn fans will buy up those tickets.
They will, but
so they're not as probably enforced as they would have been had they not lost the last two.
But they understand when they're at that fragile point of a season, and all of a sudden you'll have 8,000 to 10,000 maybe pop up on game day. They travel. They're everywhere. They're huge in Waco, as A&M fans are as well. Thanks to Marcus Setbury. And, I've beaten that drum so much about crowd and noise and all that. I wish sometimes that Baylor fans, if they do show up with a pretty good crowd, one of the things I'd love to see you do, if you have a chance, is enjoy the end of the game. But it seems like everyone just filters out, and I get that as well. All right, coming up next, Craig Smoak, Off the Radar. And this is 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Been telling you about the situation at car dealerships all over the country these last few weeks, and that situation being the fact that, well, there's been a lack of new cars and trucks available due to computer chip shortages. It's been wreaking havoc all across the country at dealerships, but General Motors did announce some good news when they put out the fact that they are going to be restarting production and release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. So cars and trucks are on the way, and now is the time to contact Richard Carr and get your name on a new Buick, a new GMC, or a new Cadillac as they are being shipped. You can drive a new car or truck sooner when you get on Richard Carr's Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list, and you can get your car or truck first as they arrive. You're looking for a pickup? Well, check out the Sierra. An ideal combination of power and strength combined with refinement and luxury makes Sierra the best truck on the road. If you're looking for an SUV perhaps, well, how about the roomy Buicks? The Buick lineup of SUVs offer size, versatility, and they all fit every lifestyle. So depending on what you're looking for exactly, they've got a model that will suit what you're looking for. Or perhaps you want some sophistication. You want the combination of sophistication along with some power. Well, how about the Cadillac XT6 or Escalade? There are a lot of options. Cars and trucks are coming, so call or contact Richard Carr over the phone or online with what you want and let them get you on their Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list today to get your vehicle before anyone else. And if you're looking to save and drive today and you're not worried about getting a newer model, well, they are loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. And with dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership for those here in Central Texas, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio. Time for Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories outside of Cowboys and college football, which is a majority of what we talk. And a big series starting later tonight, the World Series. Houston Astros and Atlanta Braves. Game #1 later this evening in Houston at Minute Maid Park. Start just after 7 o'clock Central Time, 7:09 to be exact. And According to Caesars Sportsbook and others out in Vegas, the Astros are the favorites to win this series. Minus 150 over the Braves. Braves, of course, got their spot here after beating the Dodgers on Saturday night in the NLCS. So Houston is the favorite. This is their third World Series appearance in the last 5 seasons. 1-1 in those World Series appearances. Good news for them, they've won one. So you got like that giant weight off of your shoulders, unlike the Texas Rangers, but, whatever. So an opportunity to go win a second World Series. Mattress Mac has a bet writing on this game. Good old Mattress Mac. He really is. But he placed a $3.35 million bet on the Astros to win the World Series. At the time, they were 10-1 odds. He placed the bet in late June. So $3.35 million on the Astros at 10-1 odds to win the World Series. Is that insane or what?
God, what it must be like to have that kind of money. And if they had McCullers, I would be like, man, that's good. But no McCullers for the series is going to make it tougher. The Braves are riding on a wave of emotion. But player for player, the Astros are better. And the Braves' best player has been hurt for months. So, I would say that, he's got a good shot of winning $33.5 million.
Yeah, and he does this. He kind of offsets his other gambles in business, and so it works out well for him. And he's won, and he's he had I guess it was another bet. I guess that his largest reported bet. This is from ESPN on the Astros. $2 million at 10-1 at Caesars Sportsbook would pay a net $20 million, which would be one of the largest payouts ever at a U.S. sportsbook. But yeah, he's got a late June bet, $3.35 million on the Astros at 10-1 odds. And tonight it will be a familiar face lining up across from the Astros on the pitching mound. That'll be Charlie Morton. The righty's 14-6 on the year. It'll be Framber Valdez for the Astros. So tonight, just after 7 o'clock, Paul, you just talked about it a little bit, but what are your thoughts on this series? Astros taking this one home, or are you liking the Braves and the magic they kind of had since the middle of the season?
I kind of like the Braves a little bit, but I think just common sense tells you that the Astros, especially the way that they closed out that Red Sox series, have a lot of momentum. They haven't played in a few days, so maybe that slows them down. But I just think that it's going to be interesting pitching-wise. Nobody really has any pitching, a deep pitching.
Like dominant?
Dominant, deep pitching. And this, who's – with McCullers out for the Astros, who's the guy that and Verlander's not pitching for them right now. And
it's not like when they line up Verlander, Cole, Greinke.
Greinke's a shell of himself, even though he's available. So, who's making you quake in your boots as a pitcher on either of these teams?
Yeah.
And Charlie Morton's starting game 1 for the Braves. So, I don't know. So I think that it's going to be kind of a different series, and I think it's going to go, more than 5 games either way. So you're looking at a 6-7 game series because of that pitching issue that they both have.
What do you think? You got Astros or Braves?
Man,
I'm going Astros. I think the Astros win this one.
I say the Braves remind me of the Nationals when they won it. I don't know if their pitching's at the same level of what the Nationals had. I doubt it. But the Astros, with what they did and how they came back and just basically bludgeoned Boston, they're hot. And, the Braves are hot. I'm going to take Houston in this one because I just think their offense is just, good God. And of course, Atlanta's is too, Rosario and all the other guys. I'm going to take the Astros.
Yeah, well, that gets underway tonight. So
that's so hard for me to do that because I'm a Rangers fan.
Should be a good series. The two mayors have come up with their little bet. You've got Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Mayor Bottoms, she went on Instagram and said that if the Astros win, Turner would have to wear an Atlanta Braves, if the Braves win, Turner would have to wear an Atlanta Braves hat and jersey. She'd also send him some unique Atlanta food and beverages like peach cobbler from Pascal's, a case of Coca-Cola, beer from Best Inn Brewery, and a hammer from the Home Depot in honor of Hammerin' Hank Aaron. Turner said if Houston wins, she will have to, the Atlanta mayor will have to wear Houston gear, and he will ship some Houston area favorites like Blood Brothers Barbecue, St. Arnold Brewing Company, and Irma's Original. So there's a little mayor-friendly bet there. Did y'all watch Monday Night Football last night?
I a little bit of it, and then I watched a little Eli. and Peyton and Brady.
I missed Marshawn Lynch, and
he was cussing up a storm, boy. He was cussing up a storm. He was dropping all the dirty words, F-bomb, S-bomb, all that stuff. I guess we could technically say it if we wanted to, but I don't know that the Mannings were prepared for it. They were also taking shots of Hennessy. Eli off camera. Marshawn said he took like 3 shots before he got on there, so he was having a bit of fun, and he was certainly a highlight from the Manning cast. But Browns win 17-14 over the Broncos. And I got to say,
Thursday night.
Last night
was
Saints
and Seahawks.
Saints and Seahawks,
and that was
my bad.
ugly. That was ugly.
Yes,
ugly
it was,
game.
What are you thinking about Jameis?
He's struggling.
But they don't let him throw deep because he doesn't have any deep options, right now. So I wonder how that will change when he does have deep options. But there, you can tell Sean Payton's trying to coach the gunslinger out of him a little bit, and everything's, close to the line of scrimmage, and it's not like he can't throw deep. I mean, the guy's got a howitzer on his right arm, but I think he will be fine if they can get a guy like Michael Thomas back, but who knows when that's ever going to happen. And I wouldn't, if I'm the Saints and I want to keep pace in the race and say Odell Beckham Jr. becomes available, I might go and make a deal for him because they don't really have anybody who can stretch the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And so Monday Night Football last night, it was a punt fest. Quite frankly, it was an absolute punt fest. Seahawks missed a crucial field goal, and Saints win 13-10. So they're now 4-2. Seahawks are now 2-5. Seahawks are 2-5. I don't know. It just seems like, I know it was years ago, but it just seems like not that long ago that they were at the top of the heap. But then again, one of their best players was up in the booth, was talking to the Mannings and drinking Hennessy. So that's part of the reason why they're not the same.
Well, and Russell Wilson is out. And again, Geno Smith, that night he went out, was good for like 2 or 3 series because they weren't ready for him. And now everybody's watched, and now they know his issues.
Yep. Elsewhere around the NFL, the league has announced they plan to enact new enhancements to the Rooney Rule ahead of the next hiring cycle. They plan to inform owners at the league meeting today, as a matter of fact, that they will have new enhancements for the upcoming hiring cycle, including mandating at least one in-person interview with an external minority candidate for head coach and general manager jobs. Per sources, in recent years, they've mandated multiple interviews from outside of your said organization when it comes to some of the top jobs. But with internal interviews and virtual interviews and things like that, the NFL is just trying to ensure that it's more comprehensive.
I don't, and I'm not saying that Jerry Jones is a racist because I think he's anything but a racist, but I don't think that he's ever really done the Rooney Rule in good spirit, in good faith, because he's a guy who knows exactly who he wants. For example, he wanted Mike McCarthy. He wanted to convince himself he wanted Mike McCarthy. He wanted Mike McCarthy. And so far, that's looked to be a good choice based on how the season's gone this year. But, who did he really interview that he was a serious candidate? Because he wanted Mike McCarthy. Yeah. When he hired Jason Garrett, he wanted Jason Garrett. Yeah. Jason Garrett was the interim, and then he made him the coach. As a matter of fact, he might have technically been able to avoid the Rooney Rule then. When he wanted Wade Phillips, he wanted Wade Phillips. So, I'm not saying that I'm sure he's following the rules, but has he ever done it in good faith where this person is legitimately a candidate for the Cowboys? And because Jerry goes for who he wants. And I'm sure there's many other owners that are exactly like that.
Yeah. So this is what they're doing to try and, I guess, be more comprehensive, like I said, in terms of interviewing minority candidates for top positions. One proposal that had been on the table that I did find interesting was the decision, or they didn't end up voting on it today, but and it looks like it's just going to get shelved. But the idea of forcing the coaching cycle, hiring cycle to wait until after at least championship games or until after the Super Bowl before making any official hires. But that's a no-go. I think that would probably be beneficial for everybody involved, but the NFL doesn't seem too interested in doing it that way.
But you're penalizing the team that needs to hire somebody, even though they try to always have a dead period during Super Bowl week. We've even seen that's happen. Mm-hmm. But if you're a franchise and you're an owner and you need a head coach, and it means you can get somebody 2 weeks ahead, or I wouldn't want to be delayed, but I get what they're trying to do, though.
Yeah, Cal McNair, Houston Texans owner, found himself in a little bit of hot water. He was at a golf event today. He was addressing a crowd of 100-plus people. He was with his wife. It was a Houston Texans Foundation charity. Today, the report came out that when he was at a charity event in May with his wife, Hannah, he had made a comment that was considered anti-Asian. He had said, "I'm sorry that we couldn't get together last year because of the China virus." Everyone in attendance apparently audibly gasped, according to a witness, and so he had to release a statement today through Bally Sports saying, "My comments at the event last May included an inappropriate choice of words. I immediately apologized to people who approached me then, and I apologize again now. I know how important it is to choose my words carefully. I would never want to offend anyone." So there's Cal McNair trying to clean up a little bit of a mess from this last spring. Also, Washington football team not quite out of this mess that's going on with accusers and all the reports that were surrounding their workplace environment and how toxic it was. And we know that, Dan Snyder caught a lot of heat and basically stepped to the side, for all intents and purposes. But now 2 of those accusers are demanding that the whole story gets told. And they gave a long letter that was sent, and the owners had it at their meetings today. There was pictures that Albert Breer posted on Twitter. It was hand-delivered. They were also part of the actual investigation that took place. And the letter said the NFL should not be allowed to encourage employees to come forward at a great personal risk to speak to investigators, only to sweep the results of that investigation under the rug. And it just basically went on to say that, hey, there was no details made public, and we want those details to be made public. So it kind of reminds me of the Baylor situation.
Yeah.
Like, release the letter, whatever. It's kind of release the report. Kind of like that deal for Washington. We'll see if they ultimately have to, but there is some pressure being applied, and, we'll see what happens there. But I would imagine that is not something that they want out there in any way, shape, or form.
And look at what eventually will happen if there's no written report. Either the law firm has to write one if they're made to, or, like in the case of the Pepper Hamilton situation at Baylor, lawsuits will happen where, okay, you don't want to send us the report, send us everything that you have, and then we're just going to peel through it.
Sort through it. So, just something to keep an eye on, because if that does ever come to a point where they have to release that, that's going to be a pretty bad day. Tom Brady threw a 600th touchdown pass over the weekend, and a fan was the recipient of the souvenir.
This might be the best award, even though that football was worth $500,000. This might be the best I've ever heard.
Well, like you said, the football was estimated to be worth at around $500,000. The ball is now back in the possession of Tom Brady. And he got a little bit of a deal. The fan who got the football and subsequently gave it back, according to Darren Ravel, the man's name is Byron Kennedy. And in return for this $500,000 football, he got 2 signed Tom Brady jerseys, a signed Tom Brady helmet, a signed Mike Evans jersey, a pair of Mike Evans cleats from the game, a $1,000 Bucks team store credit, 2 season tickets for the remainder of the year, and 2 season tickets for the entire 2022 season. So that is what he got in return for the 600 touchdown pass football valued at $500,000.
And I think now Brady has thrown in a Bitcoin.
Oh, really? I didn't see that part.
I do. I think he did.
Okay.
I saw some chatter on that, but he might have thrown in a Bitcoin that right now may be valued at like $50,000.
Okay. Well, a lot of people were giving this guy flack for accepting that, and like, hey, I take, everybody would do something different if it was, in their possession, of course. But a lot of people saying should have taken the money. But hey, maybe that Bitcoin ends up being worth a lot of money. Who the heck knows? As far as that goes. Speaking of money in sports, Michael Jordan, from time to time I mention like a valuable card going on sale or whatever. A pair of his game-worn rookie airships sell for $1.47 million. So jeez. A lot of folks out there with big collections and just income that goes for days when you can spend $1.47 million on a pair of old tennis shoes, but that smashes the record for a previous set of Jordan shoes that went for $615,000 earlier this year. So doubled that up, $1.47 million for Jordan's old sneakers. And I will also mention, circling back to the World Series, MLB postseason ratings up 95% on TBS. That's their best mark since 2018. Dodgers and Braves, a big part of that. But Turner Sports touting their best ratings in 3 years for Major League Baseball postseason action. So good to see people tuning in, and we'll see what it looks like for the World Series starting tonight. There's a few things off the radar.
World Series, it was a time when any kind of NBA Finals, World Series, Stanley Cup, and Super Bowl would never, ever miss any of them. Every pitch, every game. It's just not the same for me anymore, but I do look forward to having that. It will be on as I work through the night tonight. Now, coming up next, we'll open the phone lines. Paul, are they up?
It's going to be tomorrow. I have to go to my house to fix the problem. All
right. The text line remains open, and here's one. We'll come back with some of your questions and the chat room. 254-339-1122 on the text line, and also the chat room continues to eat itself up. You guys and girls are amazing. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Now is the best time of year to get involved in sports betting. Why? You've got the NFL. You've got college football. You've got the World Series. You've got hockey starting. You've got the NBA underway. You've got college basketball coming in a couple weeks. You still got some PGA events. You've got all these different things around the world that you can bet on, and BetUS has the action on all of it. And if you go to BetUS.com, use promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200. That's a 125% bonus on cash or a 200% bonus on crypto when you sign up. So go to BetUS.com today, use promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200 and bet on all the action, horses, casino, all that stuff. They have it at BetUS.com.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list. Choose your inbound vehicle, get on the list, and get your car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to choose your inbound vehicle today. Go to richardcarr.com for details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care.
And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
I formation. They give it to the fullback. You called it. Touchdown Bears.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 5:30, John McClain, Houston Chronicle. Many things NFL, college football fans. Beware. You know what next Tuesday is? The start of the biggest soap opera in sports. The College Football Selection Committee ratings.
Oh, yeah.
Most pointless.
I don't watch them. The first year ruined me for life because of, just because they
Because it was
freaking lying to
stupid.
us. Yeah.
It was stupid. Let's go back to that time. Baylor was right in the mix, and we were all fully invested because it was brand new. Everybody was looking at this playoff show going like, what is this going to be like, And then pretty soon you got the idea of it, and quite frankly, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. Not because Ohio State got in over Baylor or TCU. Like, they went on to win it, and they deserved it, and you could make an argument for them, and you could make an argument for Baylor or TCU going in, but that happened. That's not my issue. My issue is Jeff Long's BS explanations week after week for why the ratings got massaged the way that they did. So I have not watched nearly as much in the last couple of seasons because to me it only matters at the end, So that's what I kind of picked up on pretty early, and I saved myself the drama of whatever game control or whatever new metric that wants to be thrown out there for why this team's above that team. But I'm interested to see kind of how it falls and just where teams are and where they're positioned, and obviously there's some Big 12 teams that have a chance to be in the mix. So I'm curious to see the rankings, not so much the presentation of them. However,
I'm sick of it. I'm not going to watch a second of it.
I'm surprised it took us all collectively so long to ask the question: why do we have to have 6 of these?
I don't know.
Because it makes money.
If the last one, but that was the question we should have asked. We know why, but the thing is, when they first started saying it, be like, well,
the first year,
these games still have 5 games to play.
It was new.
Yeah. But it's such a common sense thing that we all missed. Was
we were locked. Got fooled.
Yeah, there's 5 more games left to play, so all of this stuff you're saying may not matter in 5 weeks.
How much fodder, how many calls, how much hand wringing, and in the end, Ohio State got in at the end, and they beat the hell out of everybody down the stretch, and they had the third string quarterback. It was a great story, but it's a fraud. It is, and
it's not a fraud. I mean, they are picking the teams. I do think it's
how they explain week to week is absolutely, to me.
Yeah, that's a clown show.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. I mean, the ratings themselves though aren't fraud. I mean, they arrive at them. I just don't need the explanation necessarily for why they arrive to them, especially when, I go back to Jeff Long, so it's probably been better since he left. I don't know. I haven't, like I said, been as interested in it. I just look at the final results when the show's over with, but. I think that there's definitely some Hollywood to the whole thing, the whole production, and that's just getting eyeballs.
Here's from Shooter TX, and I was about to pull this together. First eye tests, style points, most deserving, controlling the game.
Yes, body clocks.
Then a player was out, and I get some of that's a part of even rankings or whatever, but every week it was like, okay, we got to find another reason to do what we're doing.
The Buckeyes' left guard was out for their game against Akron, so we can't penalize. That was the kind of stuff they got around to doing eventually, and it was just like, this is stupid.
Yeah, in fact, from Rod Webb, Was this from Rod Webb? Yeah, Rod Webb, bring back the BCS poll and kill the committee. Like, maybe even the individuals in the committee. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
The BCS, though, we hated that so much, right, at the very end of it. I don't even remember what that felt like. I remember just thinking, like,
even
change
that
is
didn't
good.
work out. Yeah.
I remember Will Forte did a thing where he sang a song about how much he hated the BCS on SNL. I mean, that's how much vitriol it got. As I got all the way to the update desk at SNL, and here's the thing: the 12-team playoff basically renders it a 1-week committee anyway, because if you're going to take the 6 highest ranked conference champions and the top 6 spots, well, then the schools are doing your work for you. And then, or that job, which they should have done for you. And then the other 6, you can go ahead and hash out. But I guarantee you 4 of them will be plain as day in your face obvious.
But you have more teams involved that way. So you bring even not just the 4, 6, or 7, or 8. Now you're opening up. It could be 20 who are on that radar.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that, you're right. But most years, and this is honestly, what the case is with 4 teams, is that there's not 9 teams that have a claim to it. There's about 6 or 7 on a really crazy year.
You go to 12?
You go to 12, okay, but 12 are getting in, so then there might be 15 to 20, but I would say on most years, 4 of the teams that you're going to put in the playoff are going to be like, well, that team's got to go in.
Yeah, but now what you just said, though, you're 12 or 15 now. You have 18 or 20 teams. For example, if you did it this year, right now, from 1 to 12, here's who's not in the top 12 as far as ratings, and I know rankings is not how they do it. Wake Forest, A&M, Oklahoma State, SMU. I'll tell you right now, Wake Forest can win the ACC. Now, in the 12, they'll be in if they win the conference. A&M has a chance to come all the way back. They have the win against Alabama. We know that counts 4 times. Oklahoma State, SMU. Like, I've seen Heisman Trophy lists that have either Tanner Mordecai in the top 3 or he's not a part of the top 6 or 7. And we know why. Because it's SMU. Penn State.
Well, and also to be fair, it's kind of a system. I mean, I love Tanner, but I don't think that he just magically got like really good at college football, just because of a season away from Oklahoma. I think he's matured and grown and gotten better, but I think he's in a system that allows him to thrive. So that might, and I'm not saying he hasn't had a great year by any means, but I'm just saying from a voter's point of view, if I'm comparing him to other guys, I'm looking at like, well, when's the last time SMU had a quarterback that wasn't really good? That was the knock against Baylor, right? Bryce Petty, he's a system quarterback. Seth Russell, he's a system quarterback. So, I mean, why is it not the same thing with SMU?
But
so I can see that line of thinking.
Is there a standard guy right now who's the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy? With Rattler falling down, with the guy from Clemson going down, Ohio State, they don't seem to have anybody that's like killing people. It seems like there's an opening there because of some of the schools that otherwise, So, but it's early. It's still early. There's a lot of games still. 4 more games for most teams, if not more than that.
I definitely think it's one of the weirdest Heisman races of all time. It's just as far as what I've been watching, because there's not a clear-cut favorite. There's not even a clear-cut couple of favorites. I mean, there's favorites emerging, but they're not, in my opinion, guys, they just go like, yeah, that's the Heisman Trophy winner. Like, there's not a Reggie Bush. There's not a guy like that. It's just a bunch of pretty good players that, really it's going to depend on who wins the most games the rest of the way, most likely. But,
I mean, who's the best player on Georgia? And like part of the thing about this probably the defensive tackle. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
Right, that's not a...
From Shooter on the BCS was a computer algorithm. Every program is only as good as the input data. BCS was only broken because the horrible input data, a.k.a. the very biased polls and biased SOS. Strength of schedule. Bad data, broken system.
That's a great point.
That's a really good text.
Shooter X, thank you very much. Shooter TX on that one from Rob. Well, who isn't really a system quarterback?
No, I agree. I'm just saying that like that was the complaint when you had Seth Russell and Bryce Petty playing, and that was a knock from national guys because we had it on our shows. Like they were saying as much. But, I think I'm saying from the standpoint of people who may not have Tanner Mordecai on the list, my only logical way of thinking would be that they dismiss him because he's a system quarterback. I'm not saying I believe that, but that's what
how he can get in that conversation, run the table, and beat Cincinnati. Yeah. And that still may not be nearly enough, but he's putting up stupid numbers.
Yeah, but when someone says he's a system quarterback, they need to ask. You always have to ask yourself the inverse. So name me a quarterback in the history of football who's been great in spite of a terrible system.
Trent Dilfer.
But he wasn't good. I mean, like, he was all part of the
well,
Super
like
Bowl
DeAndre
champion.
Ware, David Klingler, they had to go through that.
But yeah,
as well.
but no one's had like a coach that calls terrible plays and is so good at football, is such a superbly supreme athlete that they overcome terrible play calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, though. I mean, you could say that for any Alabama quarterback if you wanted to, or anybody at any position that's had, maintained success over the years. But, it's just one of those things that gets pulled out when it's the quarterback at SMU and not the quarterback at Southern Cal. If Tanner Mordecai was the quarterback at Southern Cal, he would not be left off any top Heisman list right now.
No, he would be winning with those numbers or not. Yeah. Let's see. From D'Angelo Askew. Cincinnati deserves to be in the playoffs. The American isn't a walk in the park league. They beat Indiana, almost beat Michigan, who almost then beat Michigan, and they did beat Notre Dame. Troutlaw.
Well, hey, Cincinnati's they're in control of their own destiny. I mean, that's up to Luke Fickell and Cincinnati as far as what that's going to turn out to be, because you keep winning, the committee doesn't have any choice. They can't leave out an undefeated Cincinnati team if they run the table.
With a win against Notre Dame, if Notre Dame keeps winning. But you saw they dropped.
Oh, yeah.
They dipped a little bit, and you start seeing I saw this argument. And in fact, I saw Joel Klatt, who I have a lot of respect for. And so I went back and went, what was Joel Klatt thinking about this in 2014? So he said, I see a lot of people have Ohio State up against Oregon, ahead of Oregon, which they are. They're like 5th or whatever it is, and Oregon's 8th, 9th, whatever. He goes, head-to-head has to mean something, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh, really? So I went back to 2014, read an article that had quotes or referring to Joel Klatt when he said he liked TCU over Baylor. Sometimes when you say something, you got to be careful because, and I know how good TCU was. They were fantastic that year. But if you're going to use head-to-head now, then where were you 7 years ago?
Yeah, I have to read his exact quotes. He flat out say, like, I would put TCU in over Baylor.
He goes, I would, my edge is to, I'll look at the quote. I'll bring it up.
Okay.
He mentioned his edge was to TCU.
It was 7 years ago, so that's fine. But, going back to Cincinnati, and I'm with you, head-to-head has to matter. If it doesn't, then what's the point? What's the point if head-to-head doesn't matter? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the point? The whole thing if head-to-head doesn't matter. But, yeah, for going back to Cincinnati, I mean, like I said, their destiny is in their own control. They're the number 2 team in the country right now. They're unbeaten. They're going to be favored in pretty much every game the rest of the way. And, we'll see, like, by the time the conference title game rolls around, kind of where that goes. But, obviously need to take care of business and had a dicey game last week against Navy. But they're in prime position. So Bearcats, I mean, give them no choice as far as leaving you out. Don't lose a game because you're done. You know what I mean? Like, since they lose the game, they are completely out of the picture. But you keep winning, they're not going to have any choice but to recognize you in the end. Because if they don't, then that just rips the whole mask off the entire ordeal and exposes it for what it probably really is.
Well, there's one thing for sure is that they struggled to beat Navy. Well, but you're not allowed to if you're Cincinnati. You're not allowed to if you're one of those teams that's not
number
supposed
2,
to.
so it's not like they're being disrespected.
But you immediately start, and again, Oklahoma's been disrespected a few times as well along the way, including the fact that they struggled to beat Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of asked for that. They've struggled to beat KU, and KU is not a good football team. I've been very open about how much I like their head coach and the direction they're going, but that was a bit shocking, the way Oklahoma just couldn't seem to put them away last week. And Oklahoma, they're a hard team to gauge because I watch them every week. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. They look like a top 2 team in the country at times, and they look like a top 20-ish type of team at other times. So, yeah, I mean, it's, when you're dealing with humans, you're going to have different ways of thinking and different whatevers and different motivations and different agendas. But Cincinnati, just keep winning, you'll be fine.
Well, and to Oklahoma, I think this they finally broke out and found who they were, but who they are is also a team that occasionally takes people lightly, like they did early in the year against Tulane, the team's 1-6, and like they did against Kansas, where they, probably don't roll in after, you come back and beat Texas, and then you carry that momentum the next week and throttle TCU, and then you got Kansas, so you're like, and then the hard part if you're Lincoln Riley is that, he'll say like, "Hey, you guys can't do this every week." Well, they'd be like, "We won't. It was Kansas, and we did fine. Scored 35 points in the second half. What are you mad about, Coach?
Yeah,
it's 4 quarters." So those are the things that I'm sure he keeps him up at night. But.
I mean, I have no idea what Lincoln Riley's future motivations are. I know there's always been a lot of smoke about him in the NFL, especially with the success that guys like Kingsbury are having. But I did find it absurd that he was having to sit up at his press conference as an 8-0 head football coach and actually defend their performances to this point. Like, that's the expectation that he's dealing with on a yearly basis. And it's great to have those large expectations, but they are undefeated, as ugly as it has been at times. They are undefeated, and that was an incredible win against Texas that will forever be cherished by Sooners fans. But, it's funny to see the critiques and the criticisms for an undefeated football team. But, Alabama deals with that, almost every single year.
Yeah, sure. There's no one under more of a microscope beauty contest than Alabama, and they've had a few of theirs that have been struggled as well. From Raymond, let me see here. Yep, where do we leave some division champions out? Why do they? Well, Raymond, your lettering and all that is all scrabbled, whatever. From Shooter TX, Oklahoma struggles with Tulsa, Kansas, West Virginia, but since he can't struggle with Navy, and that's kind of what we just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's going to have close games. Name the team that just goes out and beats everybody by 40 every week. Not even Bama has done that, So it is funny to see. Oh, you struggled and you dropped 7 spots. I mean, Cincinnati's a bad example in particular because they're number 2. Again, they're number 2. But, yeah, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the way a struggle is viewed depending on who you're playing and what conference you're coming from, basically, at times.
Yeah, here from on the text the chat room, and then we break for John McClain. The argument that Cincinnati could not handle the grind of the SEC, so they should be out, but give them SEC recruits or time to recruit and say they're a part of the SEC, then ask that question. They have G5 recruits, and they play G5 schedule.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that people don't do. They say something, but it's only true if the inverse is true, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I said before about system quarterback, we'll give Cincinnati an SEC schedule. Well, if you gave them an SEC schedule, they would be in the SEC with the advantages that come with that. That's a great point. So you can't just say, well, you give them the SEC schedule. Well, they can't have an SEC schedule. The SEC doesn't want them. That's why they're where they are. I mean, you can't.
One of the reasons, part of the change with Texas and Oklahoma, no question is money, but they already have all the money they'd ever want, but they're wanting more. They already get recruits, but they would even get more. That was one of the things. So you never have enough. But if you're one of those schools, and like a lot of times people are now trying to pick away at some of these extra who are Chapter 2 of the Big 12, whether it's USF or if it's Memphis or if it's SMU and Boise State, you can look at them and it cannot hurt them. Those teams should get better. Now, they also might get their brains bit in for a little while. Okay.
Yeah, TCU struggled initially.
TCU, well, they actually had a really good run early because they had that team coming off the Rose Bowl. And then 14. But since that time, and they've been getting that, they've slipped. They've slipped. And right now we see where Gary Patterson and company are trying to get themselves to 6 wins and bowl eligible.
I get the arguments for the big brands and, the play an SEC schedule or a Pac-12 schedule or whatever you want to do. But Cincinnati, so far, to this point, has earned the right to have a seat at the table. It's up to them whether or not they remain seated in that chair. It's entirely up to Cincinnati, but they deserve a chance. And I don't think it hurts college football in any way, TV ratings or anything, to have an occasional Cincinnati jump up and it not be Clemson, Alabama, Part 75. I think that fresh can be good, and I would think you'd also want to grow more brands for the future health of college football because Nick Saban ain't going to be at Bama for forever. Dabo's not going to be at Clemson for forever. So I think it's a good thing when you have new teams starting to emerge, and you should embrace that rather than try to push it back down and go, no. You don't have admission to our little club over here, but that's what it feels like year after year. So,
it's like $1 million.
Go crash that party, Bearcats.
Like some homeless person that wins the lottery and they win $100 million. That doesn't mean they're still going to be invited into certain places.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
From Gary,
movie Cruel Intentions with their new money.
From Gary, and then the College Football Committee playoff committee manipulates who gets certain teams into the semifinal round, either to include SEC teams and or national level teams, which then drives TV ratings. From Trout Law, this committee that unilaterally and arbitrarily decides who gets in the playoffs thing is for the birds.
I love that phrase, for the birds.
Yeah, me too. And then from Red Wine 65, give Oklahoma's quarterback Caleb Williams the Heisman for his play in Texas and also what he did in the Kansas game to seal that game. Because I'd never seen that before. I've never seen that play before when Caleb Williams took it from his teammate and there was his momentum. The whistle had not blown. It was not dead. Even though maybe it could have been, to do that and get the first down was stupid and ridiculous, crazy good.
Heads
up.
It's incredible that 4th and short that he converted into the big touchdown against Texas, about midway through that game that ended up being a huge play. It's like, how do you ever top that play? And then he's done it like 4 or 5 times with these ridiculous plays.
Could have stripped it out, fumbled on the ground, and recovered. It could have been the wrong
J.D. Piquel brought this up to me last night. We were doing the big one, too. He said not only was it ridiculous, it's something he should have never done.
No.
It's a terrible idea. It was a terrible idea.
Absolutely.
I am curious, though. I know we have to go, but I am curious to see where he ends up when it's all said and done as far as the Heisman discussion goes. Like, I wonder how many votes he gets. I wonder, because it is...
he has started in 2 games, right?
Yeah, it's only been 2 games that he started.
It might be a year where you can do that because of some of those who have crumbled. From Caden, if Cincinnati and Notre Dame went out, and they're both in. This is from Caden. With Georgia and probably Ohio State and no Alabama. See, there were people like, they don't have to be in every year. That's okay.
I think it's good.
The Lakers and the Celtics don't win every NBA championship. Although for a long time it seemed like they did. Or the Patriots Super Bowls. Although it
wasn't last year great? The Bucks
or
won.
the Yankees. Although it seemed like they did. Yeah. All right. So there's a lot more going on in the chat room. Thank you very much. Coming up next, John McClain, NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame writer, Sikkim. 365 Radio. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. 48-foot walk-in humidor with all the great names, brands of cigars from Macanudo to Artur Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Cohiba, Padron. I love Rocky Patel, Torpedo Edge Light. And then on top of that, there are just hundreds of cigars inside the 48-foot walk-in humidor. Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne, they're always watching what is the up-and-coming cigar, and there's always something that is new and something that they even have had a chance to check, test, and then also tell you about. Then they have the coffee beans, fresh ground coffee beans, including their one of the favorites is called Cowboy, surprise. And then there's CBD products, including Vitadreams, allowing you for the little gummies. You take a bite or a nibble of one, or you take one, and then you feel like, oh my goodness, you sometimes struggle to go to sleep at night, helps you fall asleep quicker and also get a better full night's sleep. Vitadreams, ground coffee beans, fresh coffee beans, and also a cigar humidor 48 feet long filled with cigars. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram wins great awards year after year. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, joins us Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. And he joins us today on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And John, the Astros tonight embark on hopefully their second World Series title. If you're an Astros fan, what's the city like?
There's a buzz here, guys, as you can imagine. And I think nothing will be like it was in 2017 because it was first time they won. They went 0-5, got swept by the White Sox. But I think the fans have felt a lot of frustration along with the players about the way they've been treated these last 3 years as villains who cheated. And there's only 4 players in this series who were on the last World Series championship team. And yet everywhere they go, they get called cheaters by everybody. And Charlie Morton, who's starting for Atlanta, was a key component of that team, who won the 7th game, who won the last game of the American League Championship Series. But nobody calls Charlie Morton a cheater. And I think it's very interesting. The last time the Astros won a World Series, 2019, when they lost in 7 games to Washington, and the Nationals won 4 games at Minute Maid Park, their top 3 pitchers were Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, and Lance McCullers. And now their top 3 pitchers are Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia, and Jose Urquidy. You talk about 3 nobodies compared to 3 somebodies. If they win a World Series without McCullers and with those 3 starting pitchers, I'm not going to say it's a miracle because they're favorite, but it would be an incredible achievement.
Yeah, John, that's why I think this thing is going to get kind of weird and go 6 or 7 games, because both teams kind of have that same issue with their pitching, in that, you know, who's the guy that you're shaking in your boots to face twice in a series?
Well, I don't think there's any shaking in the boots. You know, Charlie Morton is a really popular player. Besides helping the Astros, they didn't bring him back, and it would have cost $14 million a year. They thought that he was at a point in his career, and he's 37 now, where he wouldn't be able to pitch without getting hurt, and he's done it every year. And last year, he helped Tampa Bay go to the World Series and losing to the Dodgers, and now He's helped Atlanta go to the World Series. And I think, back from that staff, you had those guys. You had Charlie Morton. You didn't have Garrett Cole in 17, but you had Dallas Keuchel, you had Charlie Morton, and you had McCullers and Verlander. So that was a heck of staff. And Morton has always been revered here because of what he helped the Astros do in 2017. He came out of the pen and pitched the last 4 games of the clinching to win the World Series. And I know when he came back here after he left with, let's see, who was he with? Tampa. He had a video. We were at that game. People gave him a standing ovation like he was still playing. That's how respected he is in Houston.
John, turning to the NFL, how many 31-5 games have you covered? I'm curious about that for one, and how good do you think the Cardinals are?
Well, Craig, I don't remember 31-5, but heck, I can't remember score this season. But that was very unusual. Texans have been outscored 40-0, 31-3, and 31-5 in the last 3 games. They've scored 27 points in the second half this season. They've been scored almost by 100 points in the second half. And now they're going back to Tyrod Taylor. I don't know why. They should be worried about a high draft choice. He might fool around and win 2 or 3 games, at least beat the Jets. But they'll come back to Davis Mills at some point. But people pick the Texans to be the worst or one of the worst teams in the league. I've got them next to worst to the Lions in my weekly rankings, and I think they will get clobbered by the Rams. And I think that Cardinals Thursday night game against the Packers, I'm just glad the Astros aren't playing so I can focus on it, because it might be the best Thursday night game of the year.
All right, so what's the latest on Deshaun Watson, the clock ticking, the trade deadline coming up, the Dolphins, Carolina? What's happening there, John?
Well, the Dolphins and the Texans intensified their talks last week, and they were hoping to get a deal done by the end of the week. And if I wrote that that's what they were hoping to do if they didn't go up to the deadline. And then the Athletic reported Carolina was back in it because Sam Darnold has been demoted. But the fact is, Watson has a no-trade clause. Like, he's already rejected Philadelphia, and he's probably rejected a couple more. Now, Carolina is about 200 miles from his hometown in Gainesville, Georgia, where his family is. It's also very close to his good friend and quarterback guru, Quincy Avery, in Atlanta. So there might be something to him. And I told people if Matt Rule got a chance to talk to him, because you guys know how convincing Matt can be, I bet Watson would come away from that dying to play in Charlotte. But right now, he's only given the approval to go to Miami. They've got the compensation worked out. What the Dolphins owner wants, Stephen Ross, is for him to clear up the legal issues. Well, the legal issues are the 22 civil suits, and the only way that's going to get cleared up, could get cleared up by the trade deadline at 3 o'clock next Tuesday, would be if he reached settlements. And I haven't heard anything about them being close to settlements, but deadlines sometimes spur action.
Well, John, Robert Little from Black Sports Online, and I don't know how deep inside a source he has here, is reporting that the only thing that's holding up the deal on the settlements is that Deshaun Watson doesn't want to sign an NDA so he can defend himself in public, which I would think his lawyer, Rusty Hardin, would be like, no, you're signing an NDA. The damage is already done. Like, let's move forward here. Pay them and let's go. Because
excuse me, Paul. Rusty Hardin has said they want the settlement disclosed. That is very unusual for a defendant. And the plaintiff's attorney, Tony Busby, says they don't want the settlement disclosed. What that means is, you would think it means it's not as big as you would think it would be, but they need it's up to Watson. If he wants to go to Miami, he's approved it. What he would have to do is settle and then jumpstart his career. I don't think Miami or anybody would make this trade unless they talk to Roger Goodell, the owner, because remember, Goodell works for the owners. They don't work for him. And I think Goodell would give him a pretty good idea. I'm not putting him on the exempt list, or I'm going to suspend him for 2 games or 4 games or no games.
John, what are your thoughts on the Chiefs being 3-4 at this stage?
Well, the biggest disappointment in the league, Craig, is Miami, 1-6 with 6 losses in a row after a 1-point win in the first game. They were supposed to challenge Buffalo for playoff spots in the AFC East. Kansas City, I still believe when all is said and done, they're not going to be in last place in the AFC West. That'll be Denver. And if they're not in first place, they'll get in a wild card because Patrick Mahomes is throwing interceptions for the first time in his career. And that's probably mental. For whatever he's doing, he doesn't used to do. I got to think because of the coaching and the talent, they can turn it around. But Tennessee's defense played a great game. And for the Titans defense to play like that, if they can keep doing that, Titans got to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender too.
Yeah, it's fun when you see a team like, Tennessee's got the medal. And obviously, just 2 years ago, they were right there on the cusp of it. It's good to see that. It was also fun to see what Cincinnati's done with Joe Burrow and that receiving core. They hammered Baltimore. And Baltimore, no one's going to go undefeated, of course, not even Arizona. But that was kind of a statement game, was it not?
The best story in the NFL is Cincinnati. Joe Burrow has been fabulous. Jamar Chase, leading candidate for NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Zach Taylor, maybe the leading candidate for Coach of the Year. And everybody thought they hired him just because he knew Sean McVay or met him in an airport or something. And right now they're doing a great job. To go to Baltimore and win by 24 points, it's not like they won on a last-second field goal or a bad call by the officials. The Bengals have it going on. They're the best story in the NFL, the feel-good story of the NFL. Key is, can they keep it up?
Thank you, John.
Well, one question.
Thank you, guys.
Wait, John,
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
Your prediction on the World Series. You think this is going to be 4 or 5 game series? Looking at 7. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking Astros in 7, and good luck to the Bears.
There you go.
Sick 'em.
Thank you very much, John McClain. He is so throttled right now. I mean, you might not be able to pull a needle out with a dump truck. Paul?
Oh, yeah, no, I think so.
I don't know what's more important to him this week. The Astros playing in the World Series or Baylor playing Texas, because we know what that means to him as well. The World Series got a little bit more on it.
They got a lot more on it. Yeah, it's got a big old trophy. Beating Texas doesn't do anything but just keep you in good position and give you some bragging rights, which I'm sure he would appreciate, knowing how many Longhorns he probably does. But, yeah, I would think the Astros take precedent for the time being.
No, and they should. Coming up next, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgin Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
And has hundreds of thousands.
It's personal service.
Okay.
It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
This list, top 5 ideas that fans need to let go of, inspired by a text we got today and Mike Tomlin and USC. So there's just things that just keep coming up, and I see them all the time. I thought I would maybe just say, look, because it'll help you to let go of these ideas. And you'll be able to enjoy your sport, particularly college football, a little bit more freely.
You think I'm enjoying college football?
Well, I mean, if your team's good. If your team sucks, you're not going to enjoy it. I mean,
as long as the guys are having fun, that's all that really matters.
And they're learning about life.
Yeah, and I'm sure Scott Frosky gives everybody Capri Suns and orange slices after the game.
It's all good. Yeah.
Maybe
all good.
If they win, they get cookies. I mean, that's just what happens. So, all right. Number 5, this broadcaster has so much power. You know, and I think of this, I mean, under the examples here, Corso and Romo, but I think of more like people like Paul Feinbaum said this, or Kirk Herbstreit has this opinion. Listen, they certainly have power over the people who watch them, but not the people who pay them or the people who are in charge of making the decisions.
You don't think that the college game day discussion sways anything?
I don't think it sways the people on the committee.
Yeah, I don't think that it probably does that. It definitely sways fans. So
yeah, it sways fans, but fans don't make the decision on who goes to the playoff. The committee does. Do you think that Condoleezza Rice gives a crap what Paul Feinbaum says?
She actually is a pretty big college football fan.
But
she might.
She's a very smart, strong person with her own opinions.
She has her own opinions.
You know, like they all have their own opinions. Now, yeah, I don't think that and I don't think anybody's a scourge on the. You know, people freak out when Kirk Herbstreit says something like he calls up somebody on the committee and says, "Here's what I think, do what I say." He doesn't do that. You disagree with me, Smokey?
No. I don't think that they are going to decide, like if they get to the final. No, I just think that they have a pretty good power. I think ESPN in general has way too much power on college football.
That's Disney.
Yeah.
That's not the broadcaster.
Yeah.
That's not Paul Feinbaum.
No.
That's not Kirk Herbstreit.
But I think it feeds down into what those guys on College Game Day start to believe a little bit more about themselves than just covering college football. But they have a right to an opinion. I watch them.
Yeah.
I don't watch Game Day anymore.
Yeah.
And it's only just because I just don't.
But yeah, there's not the broadcast corporation does. Yeah. The broadcaster, no. All right. This city is so lame. No one will want to go play there. Oh, my God. Hayden, that's just mean on that graphic. That's just mean.
Did he put up those graphics or did you tell him to?
I didn't tell him to. No. He just did it on his own. Neither city's
he's gone.
lame.
It's gone.
That's it.
Hayden Bumpus is gone.
Yeah. No, look, I get and I brought this up because of Lubbock. Because Lubbock's a tough place. It's going to be maybe a tougher place to recruit to, but it's all about the coach and the staff and what they're doing there. Yeah. Because most college towns are pretty much the same.
And the president, administration, all that, all the way down.
Here comes the next one, Smokey. Thanks for that nice lead-in.
Yeah, because otherwise Tuscaloosa is Tuscaloosa. College Station,
I see that a lot. I'll use Texas as an example, not because I want to, but because they are in Austin, so it's a big city. You compare Austin to Waco or to Lubbock, then there's a little bit of a difference there. But I always go back to, not everybody lives in big cities.
Yeah.
A lot of people choose not to. You may want to choose to go there for 4 years, and as a young kid, I can see the appeal of Los Angeles and playing for UCLA or USC, or playing in Austin and playing Texas. I can also see the appeal of being in a college town, a real college town, and not having every, I wouldn't want to go play at UNLV and be in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? So I see that a lot from people who typically live in cities that can dunk on other cities, but it's in college. It's all about the coach and the program, and that's the majority of it.
And this leads nicely into this next one. Number 3, the coach can fix everything. Oh, let's hire a new coach. Let's make him, he's going to fix all these problems. Well, if the problems start above the coach, then the coach can really fix only a few things.
Yeah, but there's a few coaches that wherever they go, they're going to win.
Yeah, but they hold sway. But most of the time, they go to places that aren't a mess above them. Mm. Has Urban Meyer ever stepped into a situation where it's a mess above him? Strong ADs, everywhere he's gone. Everywhere he's been, strong AD. And so a president that's been there a while, and it's not a revolving door of people. So, they can, but they're also not going to be dumb enough to, jump into the fire of a situation
How
where...
many coaches, no matter where they would go, right now to some of the teams that are struggling, whether it's Florida State, Florida, Nebraska. How many could go in there and win? Like a handful?
A handful. Okay, Nick
Saban could win on Mars.
But here's what would happen. So if Nick Saban stepped in, say the situation at Florida State where they have this guy who's retiring as the AD soon, he's not really an AD, is kind of brought in for the budget. Well, he would go in, and what would happen if they hired Nick Saban is he'd be like, hey, you idiots above me have to go. And then get the power brokers to change things out. But he obviously wouldn't step into that situation there. Number 2, our conference should be all teams in the same state. Look, the Southwest Conference didn't work for this reason, among others, is that it was too focused on one thing. The TV network, first of all, the TV networks want national games, which is why the Big 12 is growing. Second of all, when you get myopic and think that the best football is in your own little state, then that's ridiculous because all the teams around you are trying to win national titles and not just conference titles. And then it creates the situation they had in the Southwest Conference. So if you are one of these people, and it happens more here than anywhere else because we have all these schools in Texas, let it go. It's not a good idea. It didn't work before. It's not going to work now. It also feeds into this whole idea that Texas is some kind of exceptional place that's different than everywhere else, but we almost died in the snow 7 months ago. So let's move on from that and live in reality.
I never lost my heating or any of my water.
Well, good for you. A lot of people did.
Yeah, I did, and that was one of the worst experiences of my life. Truly, it really was. It was freaking scary.
Yeah, it's no longer 1950, 60, 70, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's not. The Southwest Conference is dead. It's dead for a reason. I did see, some fans here and there that were, all about before the Big 12's end game was settled about, an all-Texas conference and all that. I have no desire to see that. I have absolutely zero desire. I want to see Cincinnati. I want to see BYU. I want to see players from other states. I want to see different styles and different regions. And I don't want to make all my road trips just traveling and driving across the state. I don't see why that would be fun.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, I know it's not, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a great reason why.
Yeah. Number one, this NFL coach loves our school. He'll come here. No, he won't. He might, but he's not. I mean, he might love your school.
There might be 3 to 5 places of fan bases who think that.
But there are, one of them apparently is USC. Thinking that Mike Tomlin, is going to leave a job with a place that does not fire people. Okay, if you have an 8, 9, 10 million year job, which is head coaches in the NFL, maybe even more, and a place that has pretty much said, we're not going to fire you. You're our guy. We're the Rooneys and we don't fire people. We build and we have a program, we have an idea. Why would you ever leave that place? You wouldn't. And then the other thing is, if you've been there long enough and won a Super Bowl and still want to coach, you could just go to any other NFL team that's not as well run as the Steelers and take their money.
Yep.
So we talked about this early in the show, but John Gruden wasn't leaving the Bucs to go to Tennessee, and I'm sure there's 3 fan bases or so, but it will happen from time to time.
USC could be one, Texas could be one. And I don't know. I don't know who the other one might be.
Yeah, I mean, Bama did it, but it was an extenuating circumstance.
Yeah. And they're glad they did.
Yeah.
They're glad they did. All right, there we go. Hayden is fired. He just in fact, on the chat room goes, I got you. So he was used to be a part of it. Armstrong Sims, thank you very much. Hayden, even you, Jack McKenzie. Thank you to all of you on the chat room, and we'll get that phone line fixed hopefully by tomorrow. Text line was blowing up today as well, 254-339-1122. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, our sponsors every day that allow us to be here in this gorgeous state-of-the-art facility, studio on the corner of 101 Elm and right around the shadows of McLean Stadium. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Good night. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.